The doctor's words echoed in my mind like a death sentence. Your daughter has a rare spinal condition that requires immediate surgery. Without it, she could be paralyzed within months. I sat there in that sterile office, my hands trembling as I held Emma's test results. $80,000. The surgery would cost $80,000 and our insurance would only cover 60%. I needed $32,000 within 2 weeks or my 14-year-old daughter might never walk again. I spent that entire night staring at my laptop screen, calculating and recalculating numbers that refused to add up. My credit score was still in ruins from the divorce 3 years ago when my ex-husband maxed out our joint cards before disappearing. Every bank I called gave me the same answer. Without a co-signer with good credit, there was no way I could get a loan in time. Emma tried to hide her pain during breakfast, but I saw how she winced when she reached for her orange juice. Her beautiful hazel eyes, so much like mine, were clouded with discomfort she was too proud to admit. She had inherited my stubbornness, along with my eyes always putting on a brave face, even when her world was crumbling. I knew what I had to do, even though every fiber of my being resisted. My parents lived just 20 minutes away in their sprawling colonial house, the one with the circular driveway and perfectly manicured hedges. They had money. More than money, they had excellent credit and assets that could easily secure a loan. My father owned 3 rental properties across town, each one generating steady income. My mother still received hefty alimony from her second marriage on top of their investment portfolio. The drive to their house felt like traveling back in time to every moment of rejection from my childhood. I parked beside my mother's pristine white Mercedes, taking deep breaths before ringing the doorbell. My father answered, his expression shifting from mild surprise to subtle annoyance when he saw me standing there. "Azaria, we weren't expecting you," he said, not moving aside to let me in. "Dad, I need to talk to you and Mom. It's about Emma." He sighed but finally stepped back, allowing me into the foyer with its crystal chandelier and marble floors. My mother appeared from the living room, her perfectly styled silver hair not a strand out of place, wearing a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "What's wrong now?" she asked, her tone already defensive. I explained Emma's diagnosis, showed them the medical reports, the specialist's recommendations, the narrow window we had for surgery. I watched their faces remain impassive as I detailed my financial situation, how I just needed them to co-sign a loan that I would pay back every cent of. "Absolutely not," my father said before I even finished speaking. "We don't take financial risks for anyone, not even family." Financial risks. I felt my voice crack. "This is your granddaughter. She needs surgery or she might end up in a wheelchair." My mother adjusted her pearl necklace, a gesture I recognized from childhood that meant she was about to deliver bad news wrapped in false concern. "Darling, you chose to divorce Harold. You chose to raise Emma alone. These are the consequences of your choices. We can't keep bailing you out." "You've never bailed me out," I said quietly. "Not once. I've never asked you for money before." "And we'd like to keep it that way," my father added already, walking toward the door to show me out. "You're 36 years old, Azaria. It's time you learned to handle your own problems." I left their house in a daze, my hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. Emma was doing homework when I got home, hunched over her algebra textbook at the kitchen table. The way she shifted every few minutes trying to find a comfortable position broke my heart all over again. "How did it go with Grandma and Grandpa?" she asked, looking up hopefully. I forced a smile. "We're going to figure something else out, baby. Don't worry." That night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through my phone, desperate for any solution when I saw it. My mother's Facebook post uploaded just hours after rejecting my plea for help. The photo showed her and my father at the airport. Champagne glasses raised huge smiles on their faces. "First class to the Bahamas. 2 weeks of paradise with Lauren and the grandkids we adore, blessed." I zoomed in on the photo, my stomach churning. There was my sister Lauren, her husband Brett, and their 3 kids all dressed in matching vacation shirts. The comments were already flooding in from their country club friends. "Have a wonderful time." You deserve it. Family vacations are the best. My hands trembled as I scrolled through more posts. Lauren had uploaded a video of them at the gate. Mom and Dad surprised us with this amazing trip, $15,000 vacation package, private villa, all expenses paid, best parents ever. $15,000. They wouldn't co-sign a loan to save their granddaughter from potential paralysis, but they could drop $15,000 on a luxury vacation. I set my phone down, my mind racing. They had called it a financial risk to help with Emma's surgery, yet here they were throwing money at Lauren's family like it was nothing. The next morning, Emma could barely get out of bed. I had to help her get dressed, watching her bite her lip to keep from crying out in pain. As I drove her to school, she finally broke down. "Mom, am I going to die?" she whispered. "No, baby, absolutely not. I'm going to fix this." But Grandma and Grandpa said no, and we don't have anyone else. I pulled over, taking her face in my hands. "Listen to me. You are going to have that surgery. You are going to be fine, I promise you." After dropping her off, I sat in the school parking lot and called my parents. The phone rang several times before my mother answered background noise of waves and reggae music clear as day. "What is it, Azaria? We're about to go parasailing." "Mom, Emma could barely walk this morning. Please, I'm begging you, just co-sign the loan. I'll pay it all back." I heard my father's voice in the background. "Is that Azaria? Tell her we said no means no." My mother sighed dramatically. "Your father's right. You need to learn responsibility. Maybe this will teach you not to make poor life choices." "Poor life choices? You mean leaving an abusive marriage?" "You always exaggerate. Harold wasn't that bad. You just didn't try hard enough. Now look where you are begging for money like some kind of—" She paused, but I knew what word she wanted to say. "Like some kind of what, Mom? We're not discussing this anymore. We're on vacation. Don't call again." She hung up. I stared at my phone, rage building in my chest. But then something strange happened. The rage transformed into something colder, more calculated. I thought about Emma's pain, about my parents' callousness, about that $15,000 vacation they were enjoying while their granddaughter suffered. I opened my laptop and began researching. My parents had always been secretive about their finances, but there had to be records somewhere. Property deeds, tax documents, business licenses. If they wanted to claim helping Emma was too much of a financial risk while flaunting their wealth, then maybe it was time I understood exactly what kind of finances they were protecting. My phone buzzed with another notification. Lauren had posted a photo from their private villa's infinity pool. "Living my best life thanks to the best parents in the world, family first." The irony burned like acid in my throat, but I didn't comment. I didn't react. Instead, I opened a new spreadsheet and began making a list. Property addresses, business names, tax years. My parents had made their choice. They had decided that their money mattered more than their granddaughter's health. What they didn't know was that their rejection had just awakened something in me. Not the desperate, pleading daughter they were used to dismissing. Someone else. Someone who had spent 3 years rebuilding her life after divorce, who had learned to fight for survival, who would do anything to protect her child. I closed my laptop and drove to work, my mind already forming a plan. My parents thought they were untouchable in their world of country clubs and investment portfolios. They were about to learn that sometimes the biggest risk isn't in what you choose to help with, but in what you choose to ignore. The text from Emma arrived as I pulled into the parking lot. "Mom, I fell in PE class. The nurse says I need to go home. I'm scared." I turned the car around immediately, my decision crystallizing. My parents wanted to enjoy their luxury vacation while my daughter deteriorated. They wanted to lecture me about consequences and choices. Fine. They had made their choice clear as crystal. But choices, as they loved to remind me, had consequences. And their consequences were about to begin. I brought Emma home from school, her face pale and drawn with pain. The school nurse had given me a worried look as she helped Emma into the car, whispering that perhaps we should consider a wheelchair temporarily. The word temporarily hung in the air like a question mark. We both knew that without surgery, temporary might become permanent. After settling Emma on the couch with heating pads and her prescription pain medication that was barely touching her discomfort anymore, I called my boss to request the rest of the week off. Sandra understood immediately. She had been through her own medical crisis with her son years ago and told me to take whatever time I needed. That afternoon, while Emma dozed fitfully, I began my search in earnest. I started with public records, property databases, business registrations. What I found was just the tip of an iceberg that would soon reveal itself to be massive. My father owned not just 3 rental properties, but 5. 2 were registered under LLC names I had never heard of: Hartley Holdings and Madison Property Group. Why would he need shell companies for rental properties? I dug deeper, finding transfer documents, mortgage papers and registration fees, all carefully structured to obscure ownership. My coworker Marcus knocked on my door around 6 that evening. We had become friends over the past 2 years, bonding over single parenthood and workplace frustrations. His daughter was in Emma's grade, and he had texted earlier offering to bring dinner. "Thai food," he announced, holding up takeout bags. "And I brought my laptop. Figured you might need a friend." I nearly cried at his kindness. While Emma picked at her pad, Ty, Marcus, and I sat at the kitchen table. I showed him what I had found so far. Marcus whistled low. "Shell companies for rental properties. That's usually not a good sign." His background in IT security had given him a keen eye for financial irregularities. "Mind if I take a look?" For the next 3 hours, Marcus worked his digital magic. He showed me how to trace property transfers, find tax assessments, and cross-reference business filings. What we uncovered made my stomach turn. "Azaria, look at this." Marcus pointed to his screen. "Your father's been reporting rental income from these properties at about 40% of what they're actually worth in rent. Based on comparable properties in those neighborhoods, he's underreporting by at least $15,000 per month across all 5 properties. $15,000 per month. I stared at the numbers. That's tax fraud. Major tax fraud, Marcus confirmed, and it goes back years. We're talking hundreds of thousands in unreported income. Emma called out from the living room, needing help getting to the bathroom. As I assisted her, supporting most of her weight, my resolve hardened. My parents were stealing from taxpayers while refusing to help their granddaughter walk. When I returned, Marcus had pulled up more information. There's something else. Look at these inspection records, or rather, the lack of them. These properties haven't had official inspections in over 5 years, but they're all marked as passing. That's impossible unless someone's being paid off, I finished. We spent the next 2 days documenting everything. Marcus taught me how to use special software to archive web pages, save documents, and create an unalterable digital trail. Emma's condition worsened each day, and I had to start carrying her up the stairs. She tried to joke about it, saying I was getting my workout in, but I saw the fear in her eyes. On the 3rd day, I decided to visit one of my father's rental properties. It was a rundown apartment complex on the east side of town. I knocked on doors, introducing myself as someone conducting a neighborhood survey about living conditions. What I heard made my blood boil. "The ceiling in my kid's room has been leaking for 2 years," one tenant told me. "Property manager says it's on the list, but nothing ever gets fixed." "Black mold in the bathroom," another said. "My daughter's asthma has gotten so bad since we moved in. But where else can we go? Everything else is too expensive." "Heat went out last winter for 3 weeks," an elderly man shared. "They said it was fixed on paper, but we were using space heaters the whole time. Still charged us full rent." I took photos of everything: water damage, mold, exposed wiring, broken smoke detectors. These weren't just maintenance issues. These were serious health and safety violations that were somehow passing inspection. That evening, Emma had her worst episode yet. She collapsed trying to walk to the kitchen, crying out in pain as I caught her. I called her doctor, who urged me to bring her to the emergency room. As we waited in the ER for hours, Emma sleeping against my shoulder, I used my phone to continue researching. That's when I found it. A social media post from 2 years ago. Brett, my brother-in-law, had posted about his new job with the city's building inspection department. The pieces clicked into place. Brett was the inspector signing off on my father's properties. The ER doctor examined Emma and increased her pain medication but pulled me aside afterward. "Mrs. Thompson, I need to be direct with you. Your daughter's condition is deteriorating rapidly. Without surgical intervention in the next week or two, we're looking at a high probability of permanent paralysis. Is there any way you can expedite the surgery?" I thought about my parents probably sipping cocktails on a beach right now. I'm working on it. Back home, I helped Emma into bed and then returned to my research. Marcus had sent me more links, more evidence. The corruption ran deep. Not only were my parents committing tax fraud and endangering tenants, but they were doing it with the help of my sister's husband. My sister, who was currently enjoying a free luxury vacation paid for with stolen money. My phone rang. Lauren. Having a wonderful time. She chirped, not bothering with a greeting. "Mom mentioned you called being all dramatic about Emma. You really need to stop trying to manipulate them with guilt." "Emma might be paralyzed, Lauren. I'm sure you're exaggerating as usual. You know, if you had stayed with Harold like Mom advised, you wouldn't be in this situation. Harold gave me a black eye the last time I saw him." Lauren laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, please, you probably provoked him. Anyway, I have to go. We're doing a sunset cruise. Maybe try getting a better job instead of always looking for handouts." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, remembering all the times over the years that Lauren had gotten whatever she wanted from our parents. Private schools for her kids, a down payment for her house, yearly vacations, all while I was told to be more responsible. But then I noticed something in the background of her earlier photos. Financial documents on a table in the villa, partially visible. I zoomed in, enhancing the image. What I saw made everything else pale in comparison. Bank statements showing transfers. Regular monthly transfers of $5,000 from my parents to Lauren, marked as consulting fees from the property management companies. Lauren wasn't just complicit, she was on the payroll. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Mom, I can't sleep. The pain is really bad. I'm scared." I went to her room, holding her while she cried. My beautiful, brave daughter who loved soccer and art and dreamed of becoming a veterinarian, who might never walk again because her grandparents valued money over her life. "I'm going to fix this baby," I whispered into her hair. "I promise you I'm going to fix everything." The next morning, I woke with a clear plan. My parents had built their wealth on lies, fraud, and the suffering of others. They had chosen greed over family money, over morality. They were enjoying their vacation, thinking themselves untouchable. But I had something they didn't expect. I had documentation. I had evidence. And I had the kind of determination that only comes from a mother watching her child suffer. Marcus arrived early with coffee and a flash drive. I've compiled everything into organized folders. Tax documents showing unreported income inspection records that don't match reality photo evidence of violations, tenant testimonials. It's all here. What do I do with it? He gave me a long look. That depends on how far you're willing to go. I thought about Emma, who could barely stand that morning, about my parents' dismissive cruelty, about tenants living in dangerous conditions, about taxpayers being cheated, about a system corrupted by greed. "As far as it takes," I said. Marcus nodded. "Then you need to start with the City Housing Authority. Report the violations anonymously. Let them discover the rest. Once that ball starts rolling, the inspections will reveal Brett's involvement," I finished. "And once they start investigating the properties, they'll look at the finances. The IRS doesn't take kindly to that level of tax evasion." I spent the rest of the day organizing the evidence, creating anonymous email accounts, and preparing my reports. Each click of the keyboard felt like a step toward justice, not just for Emma, but for every tenant living in squalor, every taxpayer being cheated, every family member deemed less worthy than money. That night, I sat by Emma's bedside as she slept, her face finally peaceful, thanks to the medication. Tomorrow, while my parents lounged on a beach, their house of cards would begin to fall. They had taught me about consequences after all. They were about to learn that lesson themselves. The next morning arrived with Emma's muffled cries of pain. I found her curled in her bed, unable to straighten her spine. The sight of my daughter trapped in her own body solidified my resolve. While I prepared her breakfast and medication, I finalized the anonymous report to the City Housing Authority. 20 pages of documentation photos and tenant statements, every violation meticulously detailed. Before hitting send, I paused. Once this email left my computer, there would be no going back. Then Emma called out, needing help to sit up, and my finger clicked the mouse without another thought. The automated response confirmed receipt. Report number HR 7782346. The first domino had been pushed. Marcus texted me around noon. "Did you see the news about the city announcing surprise rental inspections? Interesting timing." I hadn't prompted that. The wheels of bureaucracy were already turning faster than expected. Emma was having a better day, able to sit at the kitchen table for lunch. We played cards while I kept my phone close waiting. "Mom, you seem different today," Emma observed, studying her cards. "Less worried." "Just focused on getting you better, sweetheart." "I heard you typing late last night. Are you working on something for my surgery?" I reached across the table to squeeze her hand. "Something like that." The call came at 3:47. An unknown number I let go to voicemail. The message was brief and official. "This is Inspector Sarah Chen from the City Housing Authority. We've received your report regarding properties owned by Hartley Holdings. We'll be conducting emergency inspections within 72 hours. No need to return this call." 72 hours. My parents would still be in the Bahamas, unaware their empire was under assault. Part of me felt a twist of something. Guilt, no. This was justice delayed, not revenge. I decided to drive by my father's main property that evening. Emma was resting comfortably and Marcus had offered to stay with her. The complex looked even more decrepit in the fading light. As I parked across the street, movement caught my eye. A van pulled up, city seal on the side. 2 people emerged with clipboards and cameras. They weren't waiting 72 hours after all. Emergency inspections had already begun. I watched them photograph the broken security gate, the overflowing dumpsters, the damaged roof visible even from the street. One inspector was on his phone voice carrying in the quiet evening. "We're going to need the full team here tomorrow. This is worse than reported." A woman emerged from the building, elderly and moving slowly with a walker. She approached the inspectors, talking animatedly. Through my cracked window, I caught fragments. "Finally, someone's listening. Been complaining for years. My grandson's asthma." More tenants appeared, drawn by the official presence. Soon a small crowd had gathered, everyone eager to share their grievances. One man showed photos on his phone. A young mother pointed to windows sealed shut with paint. The inspectors took notes, their expressions growing increasingly grim. My phone buzzed. Lauren posting from the Bahamas again. A video of her kids playing in crystal clear water while our parents lounged under umbrellas. Paradise with the best grandparents in the world. So blessed. The contrast was nauseating. Here were tenants living in hazardous conditions, and there were my parents spending their ill-gotten gains on luxury. But Lauren's post gave me an idea. I screenshotted it, saving the timestamp and location data. Back home, Emma was teaching Marcus a card game she'd invented. Seeing her smile despite the pain made every action I'd taken feel righteous. After Marcus left, I helped Emma prepare for bed. "Mom, do you think I'll ever play soccer again?" she asked quietly. "Yes, I know you will." "How can you be so sure?" I kissed her forehead. "Because I'm your mother, and I'll move heaven and earth to make it happen." That night, I couldn't resist checking my parents' social media again. My mother had posted photos of an elaborate dinner. "Living our best life, lobster and champagne tonight." The comments from their friends were nauseating. "You deserve it." Such wonderful grandparents. Family goals. If only they knew. The next morning brought unexpected developments. My phone rang early. Sandra from work. "Azaria, I don't know if you've seen the news, but there's something about rental properties being condemned on the east side. Isn't that where your father owns buildings?" I feigned ignorance. Really, I haven't watched the news. Emma needed help this morning. How is she? Getting worse. We're running out of time for the surgery. Sandra was quiet for a moment. You know the company has an emergency hardship fund. I could push your application through. I appreciate it, but it wouldn't cover enough. We need $32,000. Dear God, and your parents won't help. They're on vacation in the Bahamas. Said it was too risky to co-sign a loan. The disgust in Sandra's voice was palpable. While their granddaughter, I'm sorry, that's just unconscionable. After the call, I turned on the local news. The lead story made my heart race. Breaking news this morning. The city has condemned 3 apartment buildings on the east side after emergency inspections revealed severe health and safety violations. Tenants are being relocated with emergency assistance. The buildings are owned by Hartley Holdings, LLC. They showed footage of residents being helped out with their belongings. The same elderly woman I'd seen yesterday was being interviewed. We've been complaining for years. Black mold, no heat in winter rats. They kept saying it was fixed, but nothing ever changed. The reporter continued. City officials say this is just the beginning of a wider investigation into rental properties that may have fraudulently passed inspections. We'll have more as this story develops. My phone immediately started buzzing. 3 missed calls from Lauren, 2 from unknown numbers. I ignored them all, focusing on helping Emma with her online schoolwork. She was determined to keep up despite missing so many days. Around lunch, Marcus texted, "Check the city's public records site, now." I pulled it up on my laptop. There it was. 3 properties condemned. Hartley Holdings listed as owner. But more interesting was the sidebar. Related properties under investigation. 2 more addresses, both registered to Madison Property Group, my father's other shell company. The dominoes weren't just falling. They were creating a chain reaction. My phone rang again. This time, a number I recognized. Brett's mother, Patricia. I had always liked her. She was nothing like her son. Azaria Honey, I'm calling because, well, this is awkward. Brett just got a call from work. Something about an investigation. He's in a panic and Lauren's not answering in the Bahamas. Do you know anything? I chose my words carefully. I heard on the news about some properties being condemned. Maybe it's related to that. He mentioned your father's buildings. Oh dear, this sounds serious. I'm sure it will work out. I lied smoothly. How's your arthritis? After some small talk, she hung up. So Brett knew the walls were closing in. Good. Let him sweat while my sister sipped cocktails. Emma had a physical therapy appointment that afternoon. Watching her struggle through basic movements that should have been effortless for a 14-year-old broke my heart anew. The therapist pulled me aside afterward. Mrs. Thompson, I need to be honest. Without surgical intervention soon, these exercises won't be enough. She's losing mobility rapidly. How long do we have? Days, not weeks. I'm sorry. In the parking lot, I sat with my head against the steering wheel while Emma dozed in the back seat, exhausted from the session. My phone buzzed with a news alert. City inspector suspended pending investigation into fraudulent reports. The article didn't name Brett yet, but it was coming. The investigation was moving at breakneck speed. Someone high up wanted this cleaned up quickly and publicly. That evening, I documented more evidence. I had saved every Facebook post, every flaunting photo of my parents' wealth, timestamps showing they were partying in the Bahamas while their tenants suffered in dangerous conditions. It painted a damning picture of callous greed. Emma was in too much pain for dinner, managing only some soup before needing her medication. As I sat by her bed, she held my hand. Mom, if something happens to me, nothing is going to happen to you. But if it does, I want you to know you're the best mom ever, even if Grandma and Grandpa don't see it. I had to leave the room to cry where she couldn't see me. Later, I reviewed the day's developments. 3 properties condemned. Brett under investigation. 2 more buildings being inspected tomorrow. The local news was having a field day, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. I opened my secure folder with all the tax documents Marcus had helped me compile. Years of fraudulent returns, hundreds of thousands in hidden income. The IRS would be very interested in this information, but timing was everything. Let the city investigation establish the pattern first. Let them discover the financial irregularities on their own. Then the IRS documentation would corroborate everything. My parents still had 5 days left in their vacation. 5 days before they'd return to find their carefully constructed world in ruins. Part of me wished I could see their faces when they realized what had happened. Another part was glad I wouldn't. This wasn't about gloating. It was about justice. My phone lit up with another call from Lauren. This time I answered. "Finally," she screeched. "What is going on?" Brett's mother called saying something about an investigation. "Do you know anything?" "I heard some buildings got condemned. Why would I know more than that?" "Because it's Dad's buildings. 3 of them Brett's freaking out. He says inspectors are asking questions about his reports. Maybe he should have done his job properly then." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means if he signed off on buildings with black mold and no heat that's on him." Lauren was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was cold. "You did this, didn't you? You reported Dad's properties." "I've been a little busy trying to keep Emma out of a wheelchair to worry about Dad's slumlord empire." "How dare you? Do you have any idea what this could mean for Brett's career? Do you have any idea what it means that Emma can't walk without help?" "That's not our fault." "No, but refusing to help when you could is. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, Lauren. It might be the last one Mom and Dad pay for." I hung up on her outraged sputtering. That night, I dreamed of dominoes, not falling but rising, each one lifting Emma a little higher until she could stand on her own again. When I woke, I knew the hardest part was still to come. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. Hope. I woke before dawn to sirens, multiple emergency vehicles racing down our usually quiet street. Emma slept through it, thankfully her pain medication providing merciful rest. I made coffee and opened my laptop to the local news site. The headline made me set down my mug. "Major slumlord investigation expands, 5 more properties condemned overnight." All 5 were my father's. The article included photos of families being evacuated in the middle of the night due to a gas leak that could have killed them all. The reporter on scene looked shaken as she described the conditions inside. Families with young children living in apartments with exposed wiring, no working smoke detectors, and gas leaks that had been reported months ago. My phone vibrated. "Marcus, turn on Channel 7 now." The morning show was doing a special investigation segment. They'd somehow gotten hold of inspection reports going back 5 years, all signed by Brett, all showing perfect scores for buildings that were death traps. "This is systematic fraud," the investigative journalist declared. "Someone signed off on these properties knowing full well they were endangering lives. We've learned the inspector in question has been suspended and criminal charges are being considered." Criminal charges. My brother-in-law wasn't just losing his job, he might go to prison. I helped Emma to the bathroom, supporting most of her weight. She was getting lighter, muscle mass disappearing as movement became impossible. Her spirit remained strong, but her body was failing. Time was running out. After settling her back in bed with breakfast, I returned to the news. The story had exploded. City council members were calling for a complete audit of the inspection department. The mayor held an emergency press conference promising swift action. Then something unexpected happened. Other tenants started coming forward, not just from my father's properties, but from buildings across the city. The corruption was bigger than just Brett and my father. It was a network. My phone rang. "Sandra." "Azaria, I'm watching the news. Those buildings they're showing the Hartley Holdings ones. Isn't Hartley your maiden name?" "It is," I admitted. "They're my father's properties." Silence, then. "Your father owns those slums and he won't help with Emma's surgery. He's in the Bahamas right now on a $15,000 vacation with my sister's family." "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That's just evil." After the call, I checked social media. Lauren had stopped posting happy beach photos. The last update was from yesterday. Today, nothing. She knew. They all knew something was wrong. Around noon, a news alert popped up. FBI joins rental fraud investigation, interstate commerce violations suspected. The FBI? This had escalated beyond my wildest expectations. What I'd thought was local corruption was apparently much bigger. Emma called for me, her voice tight with pain. Time for more medication. As I helped her take the pills, she looked at me with those wise eyes. Something big is happening, isn't it? You're checking your phone constantly. Just some local news drama, nothing for you to worry about. Is it why Aunt Lauren stopped sending beach pictures? I usually get 3 a day from her. My daughter was too perceptive. Maybe her phone died. Emma smiled weakly. Mom, I'm 14, not 4. Whatever you're doing to get money for my surgery, I trust you. That evening, the local news ran a special report. The East Side slumlord crisis. How deep does it go? They interviewed tenant after tenant. Stories of sick children, elderly people without heat, families paying rent for uninhabitable conditions. Then they showed the property owner's records. My father's photo appeared on screen. Richard Hartley owns 5 of the condemned properties through shell companies. Public records show the buildings generated over $2 million in rental income last year, yet city records indicate minimal maintenance spending. We've been unable to reach Mr. Hartley for comment. Unable to reach him because he was on a beach in the Bahamas, but that was about to change. My phone rang, an unknown local number. Is this Azaria Thompson? The voice was professional clipped. Yes. This is Special Agent Diana Martinez with the FBI. We're investigating the Hartley Holdings properties. Our records indicate you're Richard Hartley's daughter. Would you be willing to speak with us? My heart pounded. About what specifically? We have reason to believe the rental fraud is connected to larger financial crimes. Any information about your father's business practices would be helpful. I'd need to think about it. Of course. Here's my direct line. Please call if you decide to cooperate. Time is of the essence. After she hung up, I sat in silence. The FBI wanted to talk to me. This was beyond what I'd planned. But then I heard Emma crying out in pain from her room, and my hesitation evaporated. I spent the evening organizing every piece of financial evidence Marcus and I had gathered. Tax documents showing unreported income, bank transfers to offshore accounts, years of systematic fraud totaling hundreds of thousands, possibly millions. Marcus came by after dinner with his daughter Jade, who was one of Emma's best friends. While the girls watched a movie in Emma's room, Jade helping her friend get comfortable, Marcus and I talked in the kitchen. The FBI, he whistled low. This is serious, Azaria. I know, but what choice do I have? Emma's running out of time. What about your parents? They'll know it was you if you talk to the FBI. They made their choice. They chose money over their granddaughter's life. Marcus studied me. You're not going to stop, are you? Not until they pay for everything. Would you if it was Jade? I'd burn the world down, he admitted. Just be careful. People like your parents, they don't go down without a fight. After they left, I helped Emma get ready for bed. She could no longer shower alone, needing me to hold her upright. My athletic, independent daughter reduced to this, all while her grandparents drank champagne on a beach. That night, I made my decision. I called Agent Martinez. I'll talk to you, I said when she answered. But I need something in writing about protection for my daughter and me. We can arrange that. Can you come in tomorrow? My daughter is disabled. I can't leave her for long. We can come to you. Would 10 a.m. work? After confirming, I hung up and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow I would cross a line I could never uncross. But as I listened to Emma's labored breathing from the next room, I knew I'd already crossed it the moment my parents chose a vacation over her life. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You have no idea what you've started. Stop now and we might forgive you. Dad. So they knew. Someone had reached them in paradise. I typed back, forgiveness. You let my daughter suffer while you lived in luxury off fraud. You taught me about consequences. Time to learn your own lesson. His response was immediate. You're making a mistake. We have resources you can't imagine. Don't force our hand. Is that a threat? I'm sure the FBI would love to see these texts. No response after that. I checked on Emma one more time. She was sleeping peacefully. Finally, her face relaxed for the first time in days. On her nightstand was a photo of our family from years ago, before the divorce, before the diagnosis, when my parents still pretended to care. Tomorrow, their house of cards would collapse completely. The city had taken their properties. The FBI would take their freedom. And somewhere in the Bahamas, they were probably pacing a luxury villa, making frantic calls to lawyers who couldn't help them. The text from my father proved they were scared. Good. They should know how it felt to be powerless, to watch everything slip away, to face consequences they couldn't buy their way out of. I fell asleep thinking about dominoes, not falling anymore, but fallen, and in the rubble space for something new to grow, something built on truth instead of lies, love instead of greed. Emma would have her surgery. One way or another, I would make sure of that, even if I had to tear down everything my parents had built to do it. The FBI agents arrived at exactly 10 a.m. Agent Diana Martinez was younger than her voice suggested, sharp-featured with intelligent brown eyes. Her partner, Agent James Chen, had the quiet demeanor of someone who noticed everything. Emma was having a good morning, able to sit at the kitchen table with us. I told her they were insurance investigators. She offered them cookies she'd helped me bake the night before, charming them with her resilience, despite obvious pain. "Thank you for meeting with us, Ms. Thompson," Agent Martinez began after Emma returned to her room. "What we're about to discuss is part of an ongoing federal investigation. Are you comfortable proceeding?" I pushed the stack of organized documents across the table. "I've been expecting you." They exchanged glances as they began reviewing the papers: tax returns, bank statements, property transfers, shell company documentation, years of meticulous fraud laid out in black and white. Agent Chen's eyebrows rose progressively higher as he flipped through pages. "How did you compile all this?" he asked. "Public records, mostly. Some creative searching. I had help from a friend who understands financial systems. This shows systematic tax evasion going back 7 years, Agent Martinez said. We're looking at unreported income exceeding $800,000. That's just what I could document. The real number is probably higher. Why come forward now?" Agent Chen's tone was neutral, but his eyes were calculating. I gestured toward Emma's room. "My daughter needs surgery that costs $80,000. Insurance covers 60%. I asked my parents to co-sign a loan for the rest. They said it was too much of a financial risk, then left for a $15,000 vacation in the Bahamas. And you decided to report them." "I decided to tell the truth. They're stealing from taxpayers while letting their granddaughter face paralysis. Someone should know." Agent Martinez pulled out a tablet. "We've been building a case against several property owners in the city. Your father's name kept coming up, but we lacked concrete evidence of the financial crimes. This," she gestured to my documents, "fills in significant gaps." "What happens now?" "We'll need to verify everything, but based on preliminary review, we'll be seeking warrants to freeze assets and access additional records. The IRS will pursue criminal charges for tax evasion. Combined with the city's charges for the property violations and the FBI's interstate commerce investigation, your parents are facing significant prison time." Prison. The word hung in the air. My parents with their country club memberships and charity galas in federal prison. "There's more," I said, pulling out another folder. "These are transfers to my sister Lauren Morrison. $5,000 monthly listed as consulting fees from the property management companies. She's never worked for them. It's money laundering." Agent Chen whistled low. "Your sister is involved too. Her husband Brett is the city inspector who signed off on the fraudulent reports. They're all connected." The agent spent another hour documenting everything, asking detailed questions about dates, amounts, and patterns. Emma needed me twice during the interview, and both times the agents waited patiently, their expressions softening as they watched me help my daughter. As they prepared to leave, Agent Martinez handed me a card. There's a federal whistleblower program for tax fraud cases. If the IRS recovers funds based on your information, you could be entitled to 15 to 30% of the amount collected. I stared at the card. I didn't do this for money. I know, but your daughter needs surgery. If your information leads to recovery of $800,000 in unpaid taxes, that's potentially $120,000 to you, legally, ethically. No one could fault you for claiming it. After they left, I sat in stunned silence. $120,000, more than enough for Emma's surgery and her future medical needs. Justice and salvation wrapped in one package. I helped Emma with her physical therapy exercises, gentle movements that still caused her agony. As she rested afterward, I opened my laptop to check the news. The story had exploded nationally. FBI raids city inspector's home in massive rental fraud scandal. Photos showed agents carrying boxes from Brett and Lauren's house. Lauren's face was visible in one shot, mascara running her perfect suburban housewife image shattered. My phone rang, Patricia Brett's mother. Azaria, they arrested Brett. The FBI came this morning and took him away in handcuffs. In front of the children, I'm sorry the kids had to see that. I said, meaning it. They were innocent in this. Lauren's hysterical. She says they froze their bank accounts. How will they pay for lawyers? I don't know, Patricia. I'm dealing with my own crisis here. Yes, of course. How is Emma? Getting worse every day. We're running out of time. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Your parents really wouldn't help. They're in the Bahamas spending $15,000 on a vacation. Dear Lord, I didn't raise Brett to be part of something like this, Azaria. I swear I didn't know. I believed her. Patricia was a good woman whose son had been corrupted by easy money and my family's influence. That afternoon, I created a GoFundMe page. I'd resisted before out of pride, but Emma's time was running out. I wrote our story simply and honestly. Daughter needs surgery. Insurance covers partial. Family refused to help. Every dollar brings us closer to saving her mobility. I included photos of Emma from before playing soccer painting in art class, laughing with friends. Then one from yesterday, unable to stand without support. The visual impact was devastating. Within an hour, the first donation came in. Marcus, $500. Then Sandra from work, $200. Colleagues, neighbors, even strangers began contributing. The story of a mother fighting for her daughter while exposing corruption resonated. Emma was napping when the next call came. My mother, finally. What have you done? Her voice was shrill, panicked. Background noise suggested they were at an airport. I told the truth, Mother, something you're unfamiliar with. You vindictive little witch! Do you have any idea what you've cost us? What I've cost you. My daughter faces paralysis and you're worried about money. The FBI called Richard. Our accounts are being frozen. They want us to return immediately for questioning. Then you better come back. This is because we wouldn't co-sign that loan, isn't it? You're destroying our lives over money. The irony was so thick I could have choked on it. No, Mother. I'm saving my daughter's life. You destroyed your own with greed. When we get back, you're going to fix this. You're going to tell them you lied. I didn't lie. I provided documented evidence of years of tax evasion. The IRS is very interested in the $800,000 you failed to report. Silence, then, how did you... Does it matter you chose money over Emma? Now you're losing both. You were always jealous of Lauren, always trying to tear down our success. Your success. You mean the money you stole from taxpayers, the rent you collected from families living in death traps, that success. We gave those people affordable housing. You gave them black mold and broken heating. You gave them gas leaks and exposed wiring. You took their money and ignored their suffering, just like you ignored Emma's. My father's voice came on, apparently grabbing the phone. Listen carefully, Azaria. We have resources. We have lawyers. We'll bury you. With what money, Dad, your accounts are frozen. Your properties are condemned. Your son-in-law is in federal custody. You have nothing left but threats. We'll see about that. He hung up. I checked the GoFundMe. $3,000 already. Comments poured in from people moved by Emma's story. Someone shared it on social media and it began spreading. That evening, a local news station called. They wanted to interview me about the scandal, particularly the human impact. I agreed, but only if they focused on Emma's medical needs. The reporter Melissa Chang arrived with a small crew. She was professional but compassionate, especially when Emma bravely demonstrated her limited mobility. My parents had the means to help, I said on camera. They chose not to. That's their right. But they didn't have the right to steal from taxpayers or endangered tenants. I reported crimes, not family disagreements. Your father's lawyer claims you're conducting a vendetta, Melissa said. My daughter needs spine surgery. Does that sound like a vendetta or desperation? The interview aired that night. Within hours, the GoFundMe jumped to $12,000. People were outraged that grandparents with millions in assets would abandon a sick child. Marcus came by with Chinese takeout and his laptop. You need to see this, he said, pulling up a financial news site. The headline read, IRS announces major tax fraud investigation, multiple arrests expected. The article mentioned my father's companies by name. Estimated tax liability exceeded $1 million with penalties and interest. The IRS was also investigating other property owners connected to Brett's fraudulent inspections. You started an avalanche, Marcus said. This is way bigger than just your parents now. Good. How many other grandchildren suffered because of greed? We ate in companionable silence while Emma dozed on the couch. She'd insisted on staying up to watch the interview, proud of me for standing up to her grandparents. My brave, beautiful daughter who deserved so much better than the family she'd been born into. My phone buzzed. A text from Lauren. I hope you're happy. My children are traumatized. Brett might go to prison. You've destroyed our lives. I typed back, Emma might never walk again. Perspective, Lauren. Her response was a string of profanities I deleted without reading. As Marcus prepared to leave, he paused at the door. You know they'll come at you hard when they get back. Let them. What more can they take from me? Just be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. After he left, I sat with Emma, holding her hand while she slept. The GoFundMe continued climbing. 13,000. 14. Still not enough, but closer than we'd been this morning. My phone rang. Agent Martinez. Ms. Thompson, I wanted to update you. Based on your documentation and our investigation, the IRS has officially opened a criminal case. Your parents' assets have been frozen pending investigation. Also, we've confirmed your eligibility for the whistleblower program. Given the scope of fraud, you could receive a substantial reward. How long before I'd receive anything? These cases take time, but given the clear evidence, possibly 6 months to a year. Too long for Emma, but at least there was hope for her future. Thank you for letting me know. Ms. Thompson, what you did took courage. Your daughter is lucky to have you. I looked at Emma sleeping peacefully. I'm the lucky one. That night, I dreamed of dominoes again. But this time, they weren't falling. They were building something new. Each piece carefully placed, creating a structure strong enough to support Emma's future. Built on truth, not lies. Justice, not greed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. My parents would return to face their consequences. The legal battles would begin. But tonight, Emma slept without pain, and strangers across the country were stepping up to help where family had failed. The IRS had entered the game. The stakes were higher than ever. But for the first time since Emma's diagnosis, I felt like we might actually win. My parents' flight landed at 6:43 a.m. I knew because Lauren called me screaming at 6:44. They were met by FBI agents at the gate. She shrieked. Escorted off like criminals. The shame of it, are you satisfied? Is Emma walking again? Then no, I'm not satisfied. Brett's in federal detention. My children are asking why Daddy can't come home. How do I explain that their aunt destroyed our family? Try the truth. Their father took bribes to endanger people's lives. Their grandparents stole from taxpayers. You laundered money, or keep lying. Your choice. That money was consulting fees. For what consulting Lauren name one day you worked for Dad's companies? Silence. Then I helped with administrative tasks. Name one. More silence. That's what I thought. Your husband is in custody, your accounts are frozen, and you're still lying. Mom and Dad are meeting with lawyers. They'll fix this. They'll destroy you for what you've done. With what money their assets are frozen. They have friends, important friends who are probably distancing themselves as fast as possible. Nobody wants to be associated with federal tax fraud. Lauren's voice dropped to a hiss. When this is over, you're dead to us, you and Emma both. Don't ever contact us again. I haven't contacted you. You called me. And considering you're vacationing on stolen money while Emma suffers, we're better off without you. She hung up. I helped Emma eat breakfast, each movement carefully supported. The GoFundMe had reached $18,000 overnight. Still short, but hope was building. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking property owners. Richard and Margaret Hartley, arrested on federal charges. The accompanying photo showed my parents in handcuffs being led into the federal building. My mother's perfect hair was disheveled, my father's expression stunned. The country club crowd would be gossiping over mimosas by noon. Emma saw the photo on my phone. Grandma and Grandpa got arrested. Yes, sweetheart. Because they stole money? Because they broke the law. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sad for them, but not sorry. Does that make me bad? No, baby, it makes you human. The calls started around 9. Extended family members I hadn't heard from in years, all wanting to know if the news was true. Most were fishing for gossip. Some offered conditional support. If you just drop this nonsense, surely there's been a misunderstanding. I stopped answering. Sandra arrived at lunch with homemade soup in an envelope. From everyone at the office, she said, handing it to me. Inside were checks and cash totaling nearly $2,000. Sandra, I can't. You can and you will. We took up a collection. Everyone contributed what they could. I broke down crying. My work family had shown more love than my blood family ever had. The afternoon brought unexpected visitors, 3 former tenants from my father's properties. They'd seen the news and wanted to thank me. My son has asthma, one woman said. That mold made him so sick. We complained for 2 years. Nothing. Now we're in emergency housing, but it's clean. It's safe. You saved us. I just reported the truth. Nobody else would. Property managers, city officials, everyone knew. Nobody cared until you spoke up. They'd brought a card signed by dozens of tenants. God bless you and your daughter. Thank you for caring. You're our hero. Hero? I didn't feel like one. I felt like a desperate mother who'd run out of options. That evening, Lauren appeared at my door. No call, no warning. She looked terrible. Designer clothes, wrinkled makeup, smeared usually perfect hair unwashed. They denied Brett bail, she said without preamble. Called him a flight risk. I'm sorry the kids have to go through this. Are you really? She pushed past me into the house. Do you have any idea what you've done? Made sure Emma gets her surgery. Destroyed our lives. My children are being bullied at school. The country club revoked our membership. Brett's facing 5 to 10 years in prison. 5 to 10 years. He took bribes to approve dangerous buildings. People could have died. He was trying to provide for his family. On the backs of families living in squalor. Lauren spotted Emma in the living room struggling to shift position on the couch. For a moment, her expression softened. Then it hardened again. This is emotional manipulation, she spat, using Emma's condition to justify your vendetta. Get out. Not until you fix this. Call the FBI. Tell them you were mistaken. Tell them I documented evidence of crimes. I can't undo that, even if I wanted to. Then lie, say you forged it. Say Marcus helped you fabricate everything. You want me to commit perjury and implicate an innocent man. I want my life back. Emma spoke from the couch. Aunt Lauren, why didn't you want me to have surgery? Lauren froze. Emma continued, her young voice steady. You went on vacation instead of helping me. Now you want Mom to lie so you can keep the money? Why am I worth less than money? You don't understand, sweetie. Adult matters are complicated. I understand my spine is breaking and you don't care. Lauren's face crumpled. For a moment, I saw my sister. Not the entitled woman she'd become, but the girl who used to braid my hair and share secrets. Then the moment passed. "This is your fault," she told me. "You poisoned her against us." "No, Lauren, you poisoned yourselves with greed. Please leave." "Mom and Dad will never forgive you. When they get out, they'll make your life hell." "They already did that by choosing money over their granddaughter. I survived. I'll survive whatever comes next." She stormed out, slamming the door. Emma winced at the sound. "I'm sorry you had to hear that, baby." "She's scared," Emma observed. "Scared people say mean things." My wise, compassionate daughter. Even in pain, she sought understanding. The news that night led with my parents' arraignment. They'd been denied bail deemed flight risks due to offshore accounts investigators had discovered. The judge cited the severity of the charges and the ongoing investigation. The reporter interviewed legal experts. This level of systematic tax evasion typically results in significant prison time. We're looking at potential sentences of 15 to 20 years. 20 years. My parents were in their 60s. 20 years might be the rest of their lives. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Azaria, this is Charles Pemberton, your parents' attorney." "What do you want?" "To discuss resolution. Your parents are willing to make a substantial donation to Emma's medical fund if you provide a statement to authorities minimizing their involvement." Minimizing, they orchestrated everything. They're prepared to transfer $50,000 immediately. More than enough for the surgery. I looked at Emma dozing fitfully on the couch. 50,000 would solve everything. All I had to do was lie. "No." "I'm sorry." They could have co-signed a loan. They could have helped when I begged. They chose not to. Now they want to buy my silence. No. "You're being emotional. Think of your daughter." "I am. I'm teaching her that truth matters, that justice matters, that you can't buy your way out of consequences." "This offer expires when I hang up." "Then it expires." He hung up. I sat in the dark living room second-guessing myself. 50,000, Emma's surgery guaranteed. Had pride made me refuse? No, not pride, principle. The same principle that made me report them in the first place. My parents had spent their lives believing money could fix anything, buy anyone. I wouldn't prove them right. The GoFundMe alert chimed. Someone had donated $5,000. The message read, "From one parent to another. Stay strong." Anonymous, but the timing felt like validation from the universe. I curled up next to Emma on the couch, careful not to jostle her spine. She stirred, reaching for my hand. "Love you, Mom." "Love you too, baby, more than all the stars." "That's a lot of love." "Not nearly enough for what you deserve." We fell asleep there holding hands, mother and daughter against the world. In the morning, we'd face new battles. Lauren would escalate her attacks. My parents would plot from jail. The legal system would grind slowly forward. But tonight we had each other. We had truth. We had the kindness of strangers and coworkers. We had principles that couldn't be bought or sold. The family had fractured possibly beyond repair, but from the pieces I was building something new, something stronger, something based on love instead of money, integrity instead of greed. The GoFundMe clicked over to 23,000 as I drifted off. Still short, but climbing. Each donation a vote of confidence, a small act of rebellion against a system that valued wealth over health. Emma murmured in her sleep, her hand tightening on mine. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The family we'd been born into had failed us, but the family we were choosing, building, creating from scratch. That family would be worthy of her. The call from Melissa Chang came at 7 a.m. "Azaria, have you seen the Washington Post?" I hadn't. Emma had experienced a rough night and I'd spent it holding her while she fought through pain that medication barely touched. I pulled up the article on my phone while making Emma's breakfast. The grandmother who chose greed over grace. A family's betrayal exposes massive fraud ring. The article was devastating. Melissa had connected with the national reporter, providing background that painted a complete picture. My parents' mugshots accompanied quotes from tenants' tax experts and child welfare advocates. But what made my hands shake was the sidebar Emma's GoFundMe link and her story. By the time I finished reading, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Reporters from NBC, CNN, Fox, everyone wanted interviews. The GoFundMe had jumped to 41,000 overnight. "Mom, what's happening?" Emma asked, noticing my shocked expression. "People are helping, baby. Lots of people." The doorbell rang. Marcus stood there with coffee in his laptop. "You've gone viral. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Everyone's sharing Emma's story." He showed me the social media explosion. Justice for Emma was trending. People shared their own stories of family betrayal, medical bankruptcies, struggling with sick children. A TikToker with millions of followers had made a video that already had 2 million views. The grandparents refused to co-sign a loan, then spent $15,000 on vacation, while this baby girl can't walk. Absolutely not. Here's the GoFundMe. Let's show her what real family looks like. My phone rang. Melissa Chang. "Azaria. Good Morning America wants to interview you. Today. They'll send a crew to your house." "I don't know. Emma's having a bad day." They want to focus on the human story. Your fight for Emma. It could push the GoFundMe over the top. I looked at Emma, pale but determined. She nodded. "Do it, Mom. Maybe other kids like me need help, too." The crew arrived at noon. The producer, Janet, was kind and professional. She spent time with Emma, first letting her get comfortable. They set up in our modest living room, careful not to disrupt Emma's needed rest position. The host, David Muir, connected via satellite. His first question was gentle. "Azaria, tell us about Emma." I talked about my daughter, her love of soccer and art, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian, her courage facing a terrifying diagnosis. The camera captured Emma sketching in her bed, her hands still steady even as her spine betrayed her. Your parents had the means to help. They own multiple properties. They just returned from a $15,000 vacation. Yes, they had means. Why do you think they refused? You'd have to ask them. All I know is my daughter needed help and they chose not to provide it. Some claim you reported their financial crimes as revenge. I reported crimes because they were crimes. People lived in dangerous conditions. Taxes went unpaid while public services suffered. My personal situation made me aware of it, but the crimes existed regardless. David asked Emma questions too. She answered with poise that made me proud. What would you say to your grandparents if they were watching? Emma thought carefully. I hope they find peace, and I hope they learn that love matters more than money. And to the people helping you. Her smile lit up the room despite her pain. Thank you for being my family when my real family wouldn't. I had to turn away to hide my tears. The interview aired that evening. Before it ended, the GoFundMe hit 60,000, then 70, then 80. By midnight, we'd exceeded our goal, reaching $93,000. I sat staring at the screen, unable to process it. 93,000. More than enough for surgery, recovery, physical therapy. Emma would walk again. She'd run. She'd play soccer. Mom, Emma called from her room, are you crying? I went to her, showing her the phone. Her eyes widened. We did it, she whispered. No, baby, you did it, by being brave enough to share your story. We held each other and cried, happy tears for once. The media storm intensified the next day. My parents' lawyer held a press conference claiming I was a disturbed individual seeking attention. He painted them as victims of a vindictive daughter glossing over the federal charges. It backfired spectacularly. Within hours, more tenant stories emerged. A mother whose premature baby developed respiratory problems from mold. An elderly man who fell through rotted stairs my father refused to fix. Each story added fuel to public outrage. The IRS announced they were widening their investigation. The fraud network Brett was part of included dozens of property owners and city officials. My single report had exposed systematic corruption affecting thousands of renters across 3 states. Lauren made her own media attempt appearing on a local morning show. It was a disaster. She cried about her children missing their father but couldn't answer basic questions about the bribery charges. When asked about Emma, she claimed I was exaggerating her condition. The backlash was swift. Someone had recorded Emma struggling to walk at school the previous week. The video went viral with the caption, "This is what exaggerating looks like." She's 14. My phone rang constantly. Movie producers, book agents, documentary filmmakers. I ignored them all. This wasn't entertainment. This was our life. But one call I did take, Dr. Sarah Chen from Johns Hopkins. "Ms. Thompson, I've been following your daughter's case. I specialize in pediatric spinal surgery. I'd like to review Emma's files. I believe I can help." "We're scheduled at County General next week." I mean, no disrespect to County, but Emma's case is complex. I've performed over 200 similar surgeries with a 98% success rate. I'd like to offer my services. We couldn't afford. The GoFundMe covers it, and I'm willing to reduce my fee. Your daughter's courage moved me. Let me help her walk again. I broke down completely. The best pediatric spine surgeon in the country wanted to help Emma, not for money or fame, but because she'd been moved by my daughter's bravery. Emma was ecstatic when I told her. "The doctor from that medical show we watched really, you're getting the best baby, just like you deserve." That evening, more stories broke. A whistleblower from inside my father's company revealed they'd been planning to sell all properties to offshore buyers before fleeing the country. The FBI's arrest had stopped them days before the transfer. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I recognized, my father somehow accessing a phone from jail. "You think you've won, this isn't over." I screenshotted it and forwarded to Agent Martinez. Within an hour, she confirmed they were investigating how he'd obtained phone access and adding witness intimidation to his charges. The GoFundMe continued climbing. People insisted on donating even after we'd met our goal. "For other children like Emma," they wrote, "because no child should suffer while grandparents vacation." Marcus helped me set up a charitable fund with the overflow, Emma's Angels for children needing medical care whose families couldn't afford it. Emma designed the logo herself, an angel with a soccer ball. "We're going to help other kids," she asked. "As many as we can. You've started something beautiful." She smiled through her pain. "Good. Nobody should hurt like this when help exists." That night, I watched the news coverage of my parents' bail hearing. Denied again. Their assets remained frozen. Properties condemned. Son-in-law imprisoned. Daughter disgraced. All because they'd chosen greed over grace. The reporter interviewed people at their country club. Former friends distanced themselves, claiming they'd always suspected something wasn't right. Fair weather friends abandoning ship. But in my living room, reading messages from strangers offering love and support, I realized my parents had never understood real wealth. They'd accumulated money while bankrupting their souls. They'd built a fortress of finances while their relationships crumbled. Emma and I had started with nothing but truth and desperation. Now we had a nationwide family of supporters, the best medical care available, and a future bright with possibility. "Mom," Emma called. "Can you help me write thank you cards? I want to thank everyone who donated." All 90,000 of them. "Maybe we start with a video." So we did. Emma, propped carefully in bed, thanked the strangers who'd become family. Her sincerity and grace touched hearts across the country. The video went viral too, shared with captions like, "This is what grace looks like," and "Protect this child at all costs." The media storm raged on, but in our small home, peace settled. Emma would have her surgery. She'd walk again, run again, dream again. My parents had chosen poorly, but from their poor choices, something beautiful had grown. Emma's pain had touched millions. Her story had exposed corruption and inspired compassion. The storm would eventually pass. The media would move on. But the connections formed, the lives changed the children who would be helped. That was permanent. I kissed Emma goodnight, whispering our ritual. "Love you more than all the stars." That's infinite, Mom. Exactly, baby. Exactly. The federal courthouse loomed before me like a fortress of justice. 3 weeks had passed since the media storm began, and today my parents faced their formal indictment. Emma was at home with Marcus and his daughter preparing for her surgery next week. Dr. Chen had reviewed her files and expressed optimism, but warned the procedure would be complex. I sat in the back row wanting to witness but not be seen. My parents entered in orange jumpsuits, shackled at wrists and ankles. The transformation was shocking. My father's commanding presence had withered. My mother's perfect composure had cracked. They looked older, smaller, defeated. The prosecutor assistant U.S. Attorney Catherine Reeves was thorough and devastating. 23 counts of tax evasion, 15 counts of wire fraud, 12 counts of money laundering, conspiracy charges that could add decades to their sentences. The defendants systematically defrauded the United States government of over $1.3 million in taxes, while operating substandard housing that endangered hundreds of families, she stated. They enriched themselves through elaborate schemes while their own granddaughter faced potential paralysis. My parents' lawyer, Charles Pemberton, tried to paint them as successful business owners caught in technical violations. The judge wasn't buying it. Technical violations don't typically involve offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Mr. Pemberton, Judge Williams noted dryly. During a recess, my mother spotted me. Her eyes blazed with fury. She mouthed one word, traitor. I held her gaze until she looked away. The afternoon brought Brett's sentencing in the adjacent courtroom. Lauren sat in the front row, their 3 children nowhere to be seen. Brett received 8 years for bribery and conspiracy. Lauren sobbed as they led him away. I felt no satisfaction, only sadness for the children who'd lost their father to greed. That evening, Agent Martinez called. Your parents' lawyer contacted us. They want to make a deal. What kind of deal? Full admission of guilt in exchange for reduced sentences, and they'll testify against the larger network they were part of. Larger network. Your father wasn't just evading taxes. He was part of a multi-state operation involving dozens of property owners, corrupt officials, even some judges. Your report started something bigger than you know. Will they get reduced sentences? Possibly, from 20 years to maybe 12. But they'll serve time either way. 12 years. Emma would be 26 when they got out. Would she even remember them? There's something else, Agent Martinez continued. The IRS whistleblower determination came through. Based on recovered assets from your parents and the wider investigation you triggered, you're entitled to 18% of recovered funds. How much? Current estimate around $400,000. Possibly more as the investigation expands. I sat down hard. $400,000. From reporting crimes to save Emma, I'd inadvertently secured her entire future. The paperwork will take months, Agent Martinez added, but it's guaranteed. You did a good thing, Ms. Thompson, a brave thing. After the call, I checked on Emma via video chat. She was laughing at something Jade had said, looking happier than she had in months. The surgery was scheduled for Tuesday. Dr. Chen remained confident. My phone buzzed. Lauren texting from a number I didn't recognize. Brett's gone. 8 years. My children cry every night. I have no money for lawyers or bills. Are you happy now? I started to ignore it, then stopped. Despite everything, those children were innocent. I'm starting a fund for children affected by their parents' crimes. Your kids can be the first beneficiaries. College funds, therapy, whatever they need. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, it's justice. Those kids didn't choose their parents' actions. A long pause. Then, why would you help us? Because Emma taught me that grace matters more than grudges. The fund will be managed by a trust. You won't have to deal with me directly. No response, but I knew she'd accept eventually. Pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. The next morning brought more revelations. The FBI announced 37 additional arrests across 4 states. The corruption network included building inspectors, city councilors, even 2 state representatives. My single report had toppled an empire of graft. Emma watched the news with me, her expression thoughtful. "Did you know it would get this big?" she asked. "No, baby, I just wanted you to walk again. But now lots of people will have safer homes." "Yes." Then my pain meant something. It helped people. I hugged her carefully. My 14-year-old daughter finding meaning in suffering while adults had caused it through selfishness. Dr. Chen called with final pre-surgery instructions. "Emma's attitude is remarkable. Positive outlook significantly impacts recovery. She's going to do wonderfully. She's the strongest person I know." "She gets it from somewhere," Dr. Chen said warmly. That afternoon, my parents' lawyer called. "My clients wish to speak with you." "No." They're prepared to sign over remaining unfrozen assets to Emma's medical trust. In exchange for what? A letter to the judge requesting leniency. "No." "You won't even consider it?" "Mr. Pemberton, they had every opportunity to help Emma voluntarily. They chose not to. Now they want to buy forgiveness. No. You're being vindictive." "I'm being consistent. Actions have consequences. They taught me that." He hung up frustrated. The weekend before Emma's surgery passed in a blur of preparations. Friends organized meal trains. Co-workers arranged coverage for my extended absence. The community my parents had scorned wrapped us in support. Sunday night, I sat by Emma's bed as she slept. In 36 hours, Dr. Chen would perform a revolutionary procedure to repair her spine. Success meant full recovery. Failure meant... I couldn't think about failure. My phone lit up with a news alert. Breaking property mogul. Richard Hartley admits guilt, agrees to testify against co-conspirators. So they'd taken the deal. 12 years instead of 20 in exchange for bringing down others. A text from my mother appeared, sent through her lawyer. "I hope you're satisfied. Your father is broken. I've lost everything. Lauren's children are traumatized. You've destroyed our entire family for money." The irony was suffocating. They still didn't understand. It had never been about money. It had been about Emma, about justice, about truth. I typed back, "Emma's surgery is Tuesday. She'd probably still love to see you before then." No response. I hadn't expected one. Marcus arrived early Monday with coffee and company. "Big day tomorrow. How are you holding up?" Terrified, hopeful, everything at once. The whole city's praying for her. You should see the comments on the news stories. Everyone loves Emma. She has that effect on people. "Wonder where she gets it," he said with a meaningful look. That evening, Patricia called, Brett's mother checking on Emma before surgery. "I'm praying for her," she said. "And Azaria, thank you for offering to help Lauren's children. That was, well, it was more grace than any of us deserve." Children shouldn't pay for their parents' choices. No, they shouldn't. Brett made his choices. He'll face his consequences. But those babies, thank you. Emma spent her last night before surgery making videos for other kids facing operations, messages of hope and courage from a 14-year-old who understood fear intimately. "Will you post these after?" she asked. "Maybe they'll help someone." "Of course, baby." "Mom, if something goes wrong..." "Nothing will go wrong. But if it does, I want you to know I'm not scared, and I'm proud of you for standing up, for doing the right thing even when it hurt." "Emma, you showed me what courage looks like. Now it's my turn." I held her until she fell asleep, my own tears silent in the darkness. Tomorrow would bring either redemption or devastation. But tonight, in this quiet moment, I had my daughter. My brave, beautiful daughter who'd taught me more about grace and courage than any adult ever had. The legal consequences would continue rippling outward. Prison sentences, financial ruin, destroyed reputations. An empire of corruption dismantled by one mother's desperate love. But in this room, none of that mattered. Only Emma mattered. Only tomorrow mattered. Only the chance for her to run again, to chase her dreams, to live without pain. I kissed her forehead and whispered our ritual. "Love you more than all the stars." She smiled in her sleep. Tomorrow the stars would either shine brighter or go dark forever, but tonight they burned with infinite love and impossible hope. Tuesday arrived with a dawn that felt both endless and too quick. Emma woke at 4:30, unable to eat or drink before surgery. I helped her shower, possibly the last time she'd need such assistance if everything went well. My hands shook as I braided her hair the way she liked it. "You okay, Mom?" she asked, catching my tremor in the mirror. "Just excited for you, baby." Dr. Chen is the best right. She's done this hundreds of times. 214 times with 98% success. Emma grinned. "I like those odds." Marcus arrived at 5 to drive us. His presence steadied me. Emma chatted with him about everything except the surgery, her nervous energy filling the car. The hospital loomed ahead, its lights beginning to pierce the pre-dawn darkness. Dr. Chen met us in pre-op radiating calm confidence. "Ready, Emma." "Ready to run again." "That's my goal too. The imaging looks promising. Your spine hasn't deteriorated as much as we feared. I'm optimistic." They wheeled Emma away at 7:15. Her last words, "See you on the other side, Mom, walking." The surgery was scheduled for 8 hours. 8 hours of cutting, adjusting, fusing, praying. Marcus led me to the family waiting room where Sandra and several co-workers had already gathered. Word had spread. The room filled steadily with people who'd become our chosen family. By 9, news crews had assembled outside. Emma's story had captured hearts nationwide. The hospital's PR director asked if I wanted to make a statement. I declined. This wasn't a media moment. This was life or death. 10 o'clock brought unexpected visitors. Patricia arrived with Lauren and her 3 children. Lauren looked haggard, her designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. Our eyes met across the room. "The kids wanted to pray for Emma," she said quietly. I nodded, unable to speak. Her youngest 6-year-old Sophia approached with a handmade card. "For cousin Emma, so she feels better." The card showed stick figures playing soccer. I broke down completely. Lauren sat beside me, our first proximity in weeks without screaming. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything. Brett's mother made me see I chose wrong. We all did. Emma would appreciate you being here." "How do you do it? Stay so calm, so focused?" "I'm terrified, but she needs me strong." "I was always jealous," Lauren admitted. "You were stronger, braver. You stood up to them. I just took their money and looked away." "You were surviving too, just differently." "No, I was complicit, and now my kids are paying for it." We sat in silence, sisters, again in the most fragile way. 11:30. No updates. Dr. Chen had warned the procedure was complex, but surely someone should have news by now, I paced. Prayed, bargained with any deity listening. 12:15. A nurse appeared. "Mrs. Thompson, Dr. Chen asked me to update you. Everything's proceeding well. Emma's doing great, about halfway through." The room collectively exhaled. 1 o'clock brought another surprise. A woman I didn't recognize entered hesitantly, mid-40s, professionally dressed, nervous. "Ms. Thompson, I'm Rebecca Martinez. I lived in one of your father's buildings 5 years ago. My son developed severe asthma from the mold. He nearly died." My stomach clenched. "I'm so sorry." "No, I came to thank you, and to pray for Emma. Your courage in exposing them. It matters. My son's healthy now because we got out, but I always wondered how many others suffered." She wasn't alone. Throughout the afternoon, former tenants arrived. Some I'd met during my investigation, others complete strangers, all united by gratitude and concern for Emma. The waiting room became a testament to how many lives my parents' greed had touched. 2:45. Marcus squeezed my hand. "She's strong. She's going to be fine." "What if—" No what ifs, only when. When she walks, when she runs, when she dances at her wedding. 3:30. Another update. "Still going well. Dr. Chen is pleased with progress. Maybe 2 more hours." Lauren's children were restless. She'd brought coloring books, but 8 hours was eternity for kids. I found myself sitting with them, helping color telling stories. Normalcy in the midst of crisis. "Aunt Zara," Sophia asked, "will Emma really walk again?" "That's the plan." "Daddy can't walk, he's in jail." Lauren flinched. I touched her shoulder. "Your daddy will walk again. He just has to stay somewhere else for a while." "Because he did bad things." Children's honesty was brutal. "Because he made mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is learning from them." 4:15. My phone buzzed with messages from around the country. Churches holding prayer circles, strangers lighting candles. The GoFundMe comments section had become a prayer wall. "Whatever happens," Marcus said, reading over my shoulder, "you've created something beautiful here. Community from crisis. I just want my daughter whole." "She already is. This is just fixing the outside to match the inside." 5:00. The room had filled beyond capacity. Hospital staff brought extra chairs. Someone ordered pizza, though I couldn't eat. My parents' former tenants sat beside my coworkers. Lauren's children played with Marcus's daughter. Boundaries dissolved in shared hope. 5:45. Movement in the hallway. Dr. Chen appeared still in surgical scrubs. The room fell silent. She pulled down her mask, revealing a smile. The surgery was successful. More successful than I even hoped. Emma did beautifully. The room erupted. Tears, cheers, hugs from strangers. I couldn't stand, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but sob with relief. "When can I see her?" "She's in recovery. Another hour before she's moved to ICU. I need to warn you, she'll be heavily sedated for at least 24 hours. The next few days are critical, but the hardest part is over." Will she walk?" Dr. Chen sat beside me. I repaired 3 herniated discs and fused 2 vertebrae. The spinal cord showed minimal permanent damage. With proper therapy, I expect full recovery. She'll run again, Ms. Thompson. I promise you that. I hugged her probably inappropriately, but she returned it warmly. This woman had given my daughter back her future. The room slowly emptied as people headed home, each stopping to offer congratulations. Lauren lingered with her children. "Can we see her when she wakes up?" she asked hesitantly. "She'd like that." "I'll explain to the kids about everything, age appropriately. They should know their cousin is a hero." After they left, only Marcus remained. We sat in comfortable silence, exhaustion hitting like a wave. "You did it," he said finally. "Everything you sacrificed, everything you endured, it led to this moment." She did it. Emma's courage started everything. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. 7:00. Finally allowed into recovery. Emma lay still, looking impossibly small among the machines and monitors, but her color was good. Her breathing steady, alive, whole, healing. I held her hand, careful of the IV lines. "Hi, baby. Surgery's over. You did amazing. Dr. Chen says you'll run again." No response, but I felt the slightest pressure from her fingers. Or maybe I imagined it. Either way, I kept talking, about everyone who'd come, about the prayers from strangers, about the bright future waiting. A nurse brought a chair. "You should rest. It's going to be a long few days." But I couldn't sleep. I watched my daughter breathe, counted each rise and fall, memorized her peaceful face. The worst was over, but recovery would bring new challenges. Pain management, physical therapy, learning to walk again. My phone lit up with a message from Agent Martinez. "Heard the good news. Your parents' sentence hearing is next week. Thought you should know." Next week, my parents would learn their fate, but tonight their judgment didn't matter. Only Emma mattered. Only her steady breathing and the miracle of modern medicine and the promise of tomorrow. I thought about the journey that had brought us here, from that first devastating diagnosis to this moment of cautious hope. My parents' betrayal had led to their downfall, but more importantly, it had revealed the true meaning of family. Not blood or obligation, but choice, love, sacrifice. The people who'd filled that waiting room were family. Marcus, who'd stood by us, Sandra and my coworkers, Patricia, who'd shown grace despite her son's crimes, even Lauren finally choosing truth over comfort, the former tenants who'd turned gratitude into support, Dr. Chen, who'd reduced her fee because Emma's story moved her. This was a family, messy, complicated, chosen, but real. Emma stirred slightly, a soft sound escaping her lips. I leaned close. "I'm here, baby. Mom's here. You're safe. You're going to be fine." The monitors beeped steadily. Outside, the world continued spinning. But in this room, time stopped. Just a mother, a daughter, and the infinite space between crisis and hope. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, the slow work of healing, the legal consequences still rippling outward, the reconstruction of lives torn apart by greed. But tonight Emma lived. Emma would walk. Emma would run. That was enough. That was everything. That was worth any price paid to reach this moment. I kissed her forehead gently. "Love you more than all the stars, baby." And in the steady beep of machines and the soft breath of sleeping courage, I heard the stars singing back. Emma's eyes fluttered open on Thursday afternoon, 43 hours after surgery. I'd barely left her side, dozing in the chair, living on coffee and hope. Her first word was a whispered, "Mom." "I'm here, baby. You're okay. Surgery's over." Did it work? Her voice was raspy, weak, but unmistakably Emma. "Dr. Chen says perfectly. You'll walk again, run again, everything." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I can't feel my legs." "That's the medication. It's normal. They're keeping you numb while you heal." Dr. Chen arrived within minutes, having been alerted by the nurses. She ran through basic tests, checking reflexes and responses. Emma answered questions slowly but accurately. No cognitive impairment from the long surgery. "You're my star patient," Dr. Chen told her. "Everything looks perfect. Now the real work begins." Physical therapy. "Eventually. First we heal. Your body's been through trauma. We'll start moving in a few days. Small steps." "But I will walk." "You'll do more than walk, I promise." After Dr. Chen left, Emma dozed again. I finally felt safe enough to check my phone. Hundreds of messages. The GoFundMe had continued growing, now over 150,000. People wanted updates on Emma. I posted a simple message: "Surgery successful. Emma's awake and fighting. Thank you for every prayer, every donation, every kind word. You've given her back her future." Within minutes, thousands of likes and comments flooded in. The world was celebrating with us. Friday brought Emma's first real conversations. The heavy medications were being reduced, allowing more clarity but also more pain. She handled it with grace that amazed the nurses. "Your daughter's something special," one told me. "Most adults don't manage discomfort this well." "She's had practice," I said sadly. Lauren visited with her children. The reunion was tentative but genuine. Emma, despite everything, welcomed her cousins warmly. Children's forgiveness was a miracle adults rarely deserved. "Aunt Lauren's been crying a lot," Sophia informed Emma seriously. "She says she was bad but wants to be good now." "Everyone makes mistakes," Emma said. "What matters is fixing them." Lauren broke down at that. Later in the hallway, she pulled me aside. "How did you raise her to be so forgiving? After everything our family did?" "I didn't. She came that way. I just tried not to ruin it." "I'm going to testify," Lauren said suddenly, "at Mom and Dad's sentencing, about the money they gave me, about what I knew." "Lauren, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Brett's going to prison because of choices we made. The least I can do is tell the truth." Saturday marked Emma's first attempt at movement. Just wiggling toes, but she cried with joy when they responded. I videoed it, sharing with our extended network of supporters. The celebration was nationwide. Marcus brought Jade to visit. The girls talked for hours, planning Emma's return to school, to soccer, to normal teenage life. Their optimism was infectious. "Mr. Chen says I might be able to play spring season," Emma told him excitedly. "I'll be at every game," Marcus promised. That evening alone with Emma, the deeper conversations began. The pain medications were lighter now, her mind clearer. She had questions. "Mom, do you hate Grandma and Grandpa?" I dreaded this. "No, baby, I'm angry, disappointed, but hate that would poison me." "They chose money over me." "They chose wrong, but that's about them, not you." "Will they go to jail for a long time?" "Probably." "Do you think they're sorry?" "I don't know. I hope someday they will be." Emma was quiet processing. "I had a dream during surgery, or maybe after. Everything was dark, then there was light, and I heard voices, lots of voices all saying my name. Praying, I think. Thousands of people were praying for you." "I felt them. Is that weird?" "No, baby. That's beautiful." Sunday brought unexpected visitors. 2 families who'd received help from Emma's Angels, the fund we'd created with excess donations. One child needed insulin they couldn't afford. Another required special equipment for cerebral palsy. They'd come to thank Emma personally. "You saved my son," one mother said, tears streaming. "The fund covered 3 months of supplies while I found better insurance. You saved him." Emma glowed. Despite her own pain, her joy in helping others was pure. This was her legacy already at 14, not just surviving, but lifting others with her. Monday was hard. The pain increased as they reduced medications further. Emma struggled, finally showing the frustration she'd been suppressing. "It hurts so much," she sobbed. "What if it never stops?" "It will," Dr. Chen promised. "This is temporary." "I'm tired of being brave." "Then don't be. Cry, scream, feel it all. Bravery isn't about not feeling. It's about feeling everything and continuing anyway." She cried for an hour, releasing weeks of suppressed fear and pain. I held her, my own tears mixing with hers. Sometimes breaking down was the bravest thing possible. Tuesday brought physical therapy evaluation. The therapist, Michael, was gentle but honest. "Recovery will take months. There'll be setbacks. Days you want to quit. But based on the surgery's success and your determination, you'll get there." Months. Emma's face fell. To run, yes. To walk, weeks. To stand, days. Every journey starts with one step. "When's the first step?" "Tomorrow, if you're ready." "I'm ready." That night, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, Emma would attempt to stand for the first time since surgery. Success would mean everything was possible. Failure, I couldn't consider failure. I wandered to the hospital chapel empty at 3 a.m. I wasn't particularly religious, but the quiet space offered solace. Sitting in semi-darkness, I reflected on the journey. 6 weeks ago, my parents had refused to help their granddaughter. That betrayal had triggered an avalanche. Federal investigations, arrests, lives destroyed and rebuilt. A nationwide community rallying around one brave girl. My parents would be sentenced Thursday. Their empire had crumbled. Their freedom was forfeit. Their legacy was shame. But from that destruction had grown something beautiful. Emma's Angels had helped dozens of families already. The corrupt inspection system was being reformed. Thousands of tenants would have safer homes. Most importantly, Emma would walk again. "Thank you," I whispered to whoever might be listening, "for the strength, for the community, for the surgeon, for my daughter." Walking back to Emma's room, I found her awake. "Couldn't sleep either," she asked. "Big day tomorrow." "Mom, whatever happens, I want you to know something. Even if I never walked again, it would be okay, because you showed me something more important than walking." "What's that?" "How to stand up. Even when your legs don't work, even when family lets you down, you stood up for what was right. That's better than walking." I climbed carefully into her bed, holding my extraordinary daughter. "You know what I learned?" I asked. "That courage is hereditary, but not the way people think. It doesn't pass through blood, it passes through love. And you, my brave girl, have passed so much courage back to me. We're a good team." The best. Wednesday morning arrived with sunlight streaming through the windows. Emma's first attempt at standing day. The future balanced on this moment. But lying there with my daughter, I realized she was right. We'd already won. Everything else was just learning to run toward a victory already claimed. We'd stood up to power. We'd chosen truth over comfort. We'd built a family from strangers' kindness. Now it was time for Emma to stand on her own feet, but she'd never really fallen. Her spirit had stood tall even when her body couldn't. Today was just the body catching up to what the soul already knew. She was unbreakable, unstoppable, unforgettable. And in a few hours, she'd be standing. Wednesday's triumph still glowed in my mind as I entered the federal courthouse Thursday morning. Emma had stood for 30 seconds supported by parallel bars and determination. 30 seconds of victory that promised a lifetime of mobility. She'd insisted I attend the sentencing, saying she needed to rest anyway and Jade would keep her company. The courtroom was packed. Media, former tenants, investigators, and curiosity seekers filled every seat. I sat between Agent Martinez and Marcus, who'd taken a personal day to support me. Lauren sat across the aisle with Patricia. Brett's mother had become her anchor as she navigated single motherhood and public shame. My parents entered looking diminished. 4 months in federal custody had stripped away their polish. My father's hair had gone completely gray. My mother moved like she'd aged a decade. They didn't look at me. Judge Williams called the court to order. We're here for sentencing in the matter of United States versus Richard and Margaret Hartley. The defendants have pled guilty to multiple counts of tax evasion, wire fraud, and money laundering. I've reviewed the pre-sentencing report's victim impact statements and cooperation agreements. The prosecutor, Catherine Reeves, spoke first. Your Honor, the scope of the defendants' crimes is staggering. Over 7 years, they stole $1.3 million in tax revenue while operating dangerous slums that endangered hundreds of families. They showed callous disregard for both the law and human welfare, exemplified by refusing to help their granddaughter's medical crisis while spending lavishly on themselves. She detailed the evidence, each fact a damning brick in the wall of their guilt. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the bribery network, the human cost measured in sick children and elderly people without heat. The government recommends 15 years, Your Honor. The defendants cooperated only after their scheme collapsed. They've shown minimal remorse, continuing to blame others for their exposure rather than accepting responsibility for their crimes. Charles Pemberton rose for the defense. He'd aged, too, his silver tongue tarnished by defending the indefensible. Your Honor, my clients are first-time offenders in their 60s. They've lost everything. Their properties, their savings, their reputation, their family. Surely that's punishment enough. They've agreed to testify against co-conspirators. We ask for leniency. 5 years at most. Does anyone wish to give a victim impact statement? Judge Williams asked. Dozens of hands rose. The judge selected 5. First, Maria Gonzalez, the woman whose baby developed respiratory problems. She spoke in accented English about sleepless nights listening to her infant wheeze, about choosing between rent and medicine, about begging for repairs that never came. They knew we were suffering, she said. They just didn't care. Then James Crawford, the elderly man who'd fallen through rotted stairs. He walked with a cane, now permanent damage from the accident my parents could have prevented. I worked 40 years to retire with dignity, he said. They stole that from me for profit. 3 more tenants spoke, each story a variation on the theme of greed trumping humanity. My parents stared at the table, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Anyone else? The judge asked. Lauren stood. The courtroom murmured. She walked to the podium on shaking legs. Your Honor, I'm Lauren Morrison, the defendant's daughter, Brett Morrison's wife. She took a breath. I'm here to tell the truth I should have told years ago. She detailed the money she'd received, the willful blindness to its source, the family dynamics that prioritized wealth over everything. My parents taught me that money mattered more than people. I believed them. I took their bribes disguised as gifts. I stayed silent while people suffered. I'm not here to ask for leniency for them. I'm here to apologize to everyone they hurt, including my sister and niece who they abandoned in their greatest need. She looked at our parents then. I have 3 children who don't understand why Daddy's in prison and Grandma and Grandpa are going away, but I'll teach them better than you taught me. I'll teach them that integrity matters more than income. That family means showing up, not showing off. That's my promise to them and to everyone you hurt. Lauren sat down, tears streaming. Patricia hugged her. My parents looked stricken. Finally. Ms. Thompson, Judge Williams said, I understand you're the defendant's daughter who initially reported these crimes. Do you wish to speak? I hadn't planned to, but seeing those tenants, hearing their pain, I stood. Your Honor, I'm here for one reason, to represent my daughter, Emma, who couldn't be here because she's learning to walk again after the surgery my parents refused to help fund. I pulled out my phone showing Emma's first standing video. This was yesterday, first time on her feet in 2 months. She wanted me to tell the court she forgives her grandparents, not for their sake, but for hers. She says holding on to anger would slow her recovery. I looked at my parents. My mother was crying silently. My father's jaw worked like he was fighting words. I reported their crimes because people were suffering, but also because I was desperate. My child faced paralysis while they vacationed. That desperation revealed their empire of fraud. I'm not proud of how this started, but I'm grateful for how it's ending. Dozens of families have safer homes. Emma will walk again. Other children are getting help through the fund created from donations. I paused, choosing words carefully. My parents taught me about consequences. They were right. Every choice has consequences. Their choice to value money over family led here. My choice to fight for my daughter led to justice. Emma's choice to forgive leads to her freedom from bitterness. I hope someday my parents learn that lesson, that the only wealth worth having is love freely given. I sat down. The courtroom was silent except for muffled sobs. Even Judge Williams seemed affected. Mr. and Mrs. Hartley, do you wish to speak before sentencing? My father stood slowly. Your Honor, He stopped looking at my mother. She nodded. He continued. We destroyed our family for money. We see that now. Too late, but we see it. Our granddaughter needed us, and we counted coins instead. Our tenants needed us, and we counted profits instead. We've lost everything that matters. Prison seems almost redundant. He turned to me. Azaria, I know you can't forgive us, but please tell Emma, tell her we're sorry. Tell her we finally understand what wealth really means, and we're bankrupt. He sat down heavily. My mother didn't speak, just wept. Judge Williams reviewed his notes. This case represents a fundamental betrayal of social responsibility. The defendants had every advantage, education, resources, opportunity. They used those advantages to exploit vulnerable people while enriching themselves. The fact that they would deny medical help to their grandchild while living luxuriously speaks to a moral poverty no amount of money could cure. He looked at my parents sternly. However, I also note the profound consequences already suffered, the complete loss of financial assets, social standing, and family relationships. The defendant's cooperation, however belated, has led to additional arrests and ongoing reforms. Their guilty pleas spare victims the trauma of trial. Richard Hartley. I sentence you to 12 years in federal prison. Margaret Hartley, considering your lesser role in the business operations, I sentence you to 8 years in federal prison. You'll serve your time in separate facilities. Upon release, you'll have 3 years supervised probation and must pay restitution to all identified victims. The gavel fell with finality. My mother looked at me one last time before the marshals led them away. Her lips moved. I'm sorry. Too late, but maybe finally sincere? Outside the courthouse, media swarmed. I gave a brief statement focusing on Emma's recovery and the ongoing fund for children in need. Lauren stood beside me, our family's fracture displayed publicly, but beginning to heal. How's Emma doing? A reporter asked. I smiled genuine for the first time in months. She stood yesterday, she'll walk tomorrow, she'll run next month, that's all that matters. Back at the hospital, Emma was attempting her first steps with a walker. I arrived just as she managed 3 shuffling movements forward. "Mom, look, I'm walking." I dropped everything to embrace her. "I see, baby. You're amazing." "How was court?" "Your grandparents are going to prison. Grandpa for 12 years, Grandma for 8. Emma's face fell slightly. "That's a long time." "Yes." "Did they say anything?" "They said they're sorry. They said they finally understand what's important." "Do you believe them?" "I think losing everything taught them what we always knew, that love is the only real wealth." Emma nodded solemnly. "Maybe when they get out, they'll be better grandparents to Lauren's kids." My 14-year-old daughter still finding hope for people who'd failed her, still believing in redemption. "Mom," she said, adjusting her grip on the walker, "watch this." She took 5 more steps, slow, careful, but steady. Progress measured in inches, but representing miles of possibility. "Know what I'm thinking about while walking?" she asked. "What?" "All those people who helped us. Every donation, every prayer, every kind word. I'm walking on their love." I helped her back to bed, exhausted but triumphant. She was right. She wasn't just walking on healing bones and surgical skill. She was walking on the foundation built by thousands of strangers who'd chosen compassion over indifference. My parents would serve their time. The investigation would continue expanding. Lives would be rebuilt or remain broken. But in this room, my daughter was learning to walk again. And with each step, she was teaching the world that the only verdict that truly mattered was the one we passed on ourselves. The choice to stand, to fight, to forgive, to grow. Today's verdict was justice. Emma's verdict was grace. Both were necessary. Both were earned. Both would echo forward into whatever tomorrow brought. The news came on a rainy Tuesday 6 months after my parents' sentencing. I was helping Emma with physical therapy in our living room, her movements now fluid and confident when Agent Martinez called. "Azaria, I have news. The full investigation has concluded. We've secured convictions for 43 individuals across 5 states. The recovered assets and penalties total $18.7 million. I sat down hard. $18 million. Your initial report started the largest property fraud investigation in federal history. The IRS Whistleblower Award has been calculated. You'll receive 15% of the amount directly attributable to your information. That's $2.3 million. The phone nearly slipped from numb fingers. $2.3 million. From desperation to save Emma, I'd accidentally become wealthy. There's more, Agent Martinez continued. The Victims Restitution Fund will distribute another $4 million to affected tenants. Every family your parents hurt will receive compensation. After hanging up, I watched Emma practicing soccer moves in our small backyard. 6 months post-surgery, she moved like she'd never been injured. The medical bills were paid. The follow-up care covered. But $2 million. That was generational wealth. The kind my parents had hoarded while others suffered. "Everything okay, Mom?" Emma called, noticing my expression. "Just processing some news. Come inside. We need to talk." I explained the settlement, watching her eyes widen at the number. My 14-year-old daughter, wise beyond her years, sat quietly for several minutes. "That's a lot of money," she finally said. "More than we'll ever need." "So what do we do with it?" "What do you think we should do?" Emma smiled. "Help people. Like all those strangers helped us." That evening, Marcus joined us for our regular dinner. He'd become such a constant presence that his absence would have felt wrong. As Emma cleared dishes, insisting she could manage alone, he studied me. "You've got that look, the one from right before you took down a crime ring." The IRS settlement came through, $2.3 million. He whistled low. "That's life-changing money." "I don't want it to change us. Emma's already talking about expanding the Angels Fund. But I want to be smart. Set aside enough for her college for security, then use the rest for good. You could buy a mansion, travel the world, live like my parents." I shook my head. "Never." Over the following weeks, I assembled a team: financial advisors, lawyers, nonprofit specialists. Emma participated in every meeting, learning about sustainable giving and financial responsibility. We structured everything carefully. First, a trust for Emma's education and future medical needs, $500,000 conservatively invested. Then establishment of the Emma's Angels Foundation as an official nonprofit. The remaining $1.8 million as the seed fund with a sustainable model for growth. The foundation's mission: medical assistance for children whose families couldn't afford care. Priority given to those betrayed or abandoned by family like Emma had been. Lauren, now working as a receptionist and rebuilding her life, asked to volunteer. "I need to give back," she said, "to make amends." I made her foundation secretary. Redemption required opportunity. The first Angels Gala happened 3 months later. Emma, now walking without any trace of injury, spoke to the packed ballroom. 9 months ago, I thought I'd never walk again. My grandparents had money to help but chose not to. Then thousands of strangers chose differently. They chose love over indifference. That's why we're here, to be the family others need when their blood family fails. The event raised another $400,000. Local businesses touched by the story pledged ongoing support. What started as desperation had become a movement. My parents wrote from prison, separate letters but similar themes. They'd watch news coverage of the gala from their cells. My father's handwriting, once bold and commanding, now wavered. "I see what you've built from what we destroyed. Your mother and I discuss it during our weekly calls. How we had millions but were poor. How you had nothing but were rich. We were fools, Azaria. Greedy fools who mistook numbers for worth. I'm proud of you. Too late, but deeply." My mother's letter was longer, filled with regret and reflection. She'd started teaching literacy to fellow inmates finding purpose in service for the first time. She asked for photos of Emma, promising not to contact her directly until invited. I sent the photos. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement of their humanity. Emma's first soccer game back was scheduled for a crisp October Saturday. She'd worked relentlessly, pushing through pain and frustration to rebuild her athletic skills. The morning of the game, she was nervous. What if I'm not as good as before? What if you're better? You've learned to fight through impossible things. That makes you stronger than any opponent. The stands were packed. Our entire support network had come. Marcus and Jade Sandra and co-workers Lauren with her kids, Patricia Agent Martinez off duty, Dr. Chen, who'd flown in specially dozens of families helped by the foundation, and hundreds who'd followed Emma's journey online. When Emma took the field, the crowd erupted. She'd asked to wear number 32, representing the $32,000 that had started everything. Her first touch of the ball was tentative. The second, more confident. By the third, she was Emma again, flying down the field with joy radiating from every step. She didn't score that game. Her team lost 3-2. But watching her run, watching her laugh with teammates, watching her live fully, that was victory enough for lifetimes. The local news covered the game. From paralysis to the pitch, Emma Thompson's incredible journey. The story went viral again, bringing more attention and donations to the foundation. That night, Emma sat with her laptop, personally thanking every person who'd messaged congratulations. Hours of typing, but she insisted. "They cared when I needed them," she explained. "The least I can do is let them know it mattered." A year after the surgery, the foundation had helped 200 families. Children received surgeries, treatments, medications, equipment. Each success story was documented, sharing hope forward. Lauren had become instrumental in operations her business knowledge finally used for good. Her children thrived despite Brett's absence, learning resilience from their mother's transformation. She'd sold their McMansion, moving to a modest apartment near us. The sisters who'd been separated by greed were reunited through service. Brett wrote from prison thanking me for supporting Lauren and the kids. He'd admitted full guilt, cooperating completely. His sentence was 8 years, but with good behavior, he might see 5. He spent his time teaching fellow inmates basic finance, trying to prevent future crimes through education. "I took bribes that endangered children," he wrote. Now Lauren sends photos of kids your foundation has helped. Each one is a reminder of what truly matters. Thank you for showing our children a better way. Even Patricia volunteered regularly, finding purpose in helping others through crisis. The woman who'd raised a son who lost his way was determined to guide other mothers through similar pain. The second anniversary of Emma's surgery arrived with unexpected news. Dr. Chen called personally. "Emma's case has been selected for presentation at the International Pediatric Spine Conference. With your permission, I'd like her to attend, to show other surgeons and families what's possible." Emma glowed at the opportunity to help other children facing similar diagnoses. We flew to Chicago, all expenses paid by the conference. She spoke to an auditorium of doctors, her poise remarkable. 2 years ago, my grandparents chose money over my mobility. That betrayal led my mom to expose their crimes. Their investigation helped hundreds of families. Their punishment funded a foundation helping thousands more. Sometimes the worst things lead to the best outcomes. My spine was broken, but my spirit never was. That's what I hope you tell your patients. Bodies heal, spirits endure. And sometimes family isn't who you're born to, but who shows up when you need them. Standing ovation, not a dry eye in the house. My 15-year-old philosopher, athlete, advocate daughter had distilled profound truth into simple words. The ripples continued expanding. Cities nationwide reformed their inspection processes. Property laws changed. Tenant rights strengthened. What started as one mother's desperate attempt to save her daughter had transformed systems. The IRS contacted me about speaking at their whistleblower conference. I agreed, bringing Emma. We talked about integrity, about choosing truth, even when it hurt, about building beauty from betrayal. My parents taught me about consequences through their negative example. I told the audience, every choice ripples outward. They chose greed and the ripples destroyed lives. I chose truth and the ripples saved my daughter. Now we choose service, and those ripples create waves of hope. That's the real verdict. Not what the court decides, but what we decide. Daily. Repeatedly. Who will be when tested? Emma and I returned home to find Marcus and Jade making dinner a surprise for the travelers. Somewhere between the crisis and recovery, between betrayal and triumph, we'd become more than friends. We'd become family in every way that mattered. "I have something to ask you," Marcus said that evening as the girls disappeared to Emma's room. "These past 2 years watching you fight for Emma, building something beautiful from something broken, I've fallen in love with you, Azaria, both of you. Would you consider making this informal family something more official?" He wasn't holding a ring. He was holding a soccer ball. Emma's first ball from after recovery, signed by her team. "I thought she should be part of the proposal, if you're willing." "Emma." I called, my voice shaky with emotion. "Could you come here?" She appeared, Jade behind her, both grinning. They'd known. Of course they'd known. "What do you think, baby, ready to make this family official?" Emma hugged Marcus fiercely. "I already told Jade she could be my sister. We've been waiting for you adults to catch up." The wedding was small, held at the Foundation Center. Emma and Jade as co-maids of honor. Lauren as my bridesmaid, our reconciliation complete. Patricia officiating, having gotten ordained just for us. The reception raised another 100,000 for the foundation guests insisting on donating rather than traditional gifts. My parents sent a letter from prison. Simple, sincere. "Be happy. You've earned it. Give Emma our love. Maybe someday we can earn hers." 3 years after that desperate morning when I'd begged for help, I stood watching Emma captain her high school soccer team. Jade cheered from the stands. Marcus held my hand. Lauren and her kids sat beside us, her wedding ring absent but her smile present. She'd started dating a single dad from the foundation support group, both finding love after betrayal. The game was tied with minutes left. Emma stole the ball at midfield, her movements poetry in motion. She developed a signature move, a quick feint left before exploding right, that left defenders stumbling. She used it now, breaking free, racing toward goal. Time slowed. I saw not just the athlete, but the journey. The girl who couldn't stand, the parents who wouldn't help, the investigation that toppled an empire, the strangers who became family, the millions raised and distributed, the lives saved and changed. Emma struck the ball cleanly. Upper right corner, unstoppable. The crowd erupted. Her teammates mobbed her, but she broke free, running to the stands to us, to her real family, the one built on choice, not chance, on love, not blood, on truth, not greed. That was for everyone who helped me walk again, she shouted to the crowd. The local news was there, still following her story. The reporter asked what was next for the girl who'd overcome everything. Medical school. Emma answered without hesitation. Pediatric neurosurgery. Dr. Chen saved my life. I want to pay it forward, forever. That night, our blended family had dinner together. Emma and Jade debated college options. Marcus and I planned the foundation's expansion. Lauren shared news that Brett had been approved for early release based on his cooperation in prison teaching. Her children would have their father back, changed but present. You know what I realized? Emma said suddenly. If Grandma and Grandpa had just co-signed that loan, none of this would have happened. I'd have had surgery, sure, but hundreds of families would still be in dangerous housing. The foundation wouldn't exist. All those kids wouldn't have gotten help. Lauren wouldn't have found her purpose. Our family wouldn't have come together. She paused, wise beyond her years. Their no was the best gift they ever gave us, because it forced us to find our yes, to choose love over fear, to build wealth that actually matters. They're in prison, but we're free. Really free. And that's the verdict that counts. I looked around the table at our unconventional family. My daughter, walking miracle and future healer. My stepdaughter, brilliant and kind. My husband, steady and true. My sister, redeemed and rebuilding. Extended family of choice filling every seat. This was wealth. This was justice. This was the verdict we'd written with every choice to help, rather than hoard to lift, rather than crush to love, rather than abandon. My parents had taught me about consequences, just not the way they'd intended. They'd shown me that greed was poverty, that betrayal was bankruptcy, that choosing money over family was the poorest investment possible. But from their poverty, we'd built riches. From their betrayal, we'd built bonds. From their choice, we'd built chances for others. The verdict was in, had been for years, written not in legal documents but in lives transformed, not in prison sentences but in freedoms granted, not in what was taken but in what was given. Love won. Love always won, even when it looked like losing first. Especially then. 5 years had passed since Emma's surgery when the letter arrived. The return address made my hands tremble. FCI Coleman Medium, where my father was serving his sentence. But the handwriting wasn't his. Mrs. Thompson, you don't know me, but I know your story. Your father has been teaching financial literacy here for 3 years. He told us about his crimes, about choosing money over his granddaughter. He uses his story as a warning. I'm getting out next month, and because of him, I won't make the same mistakes. I'll put my daughter first. Thank you for starting the chain that led to his teaching. He saved more families from prison than he ever hurt from outside. I read it 3 times, then handed it to Emma. Now 19 and pre-med at Johns Hopkins, she was home for spring break. She'd grown tall and strong, her athletic grace intact, but matured into scholarly purpose. Redemption comes in unexpected ways, she said simply. That afternoon, my mother called. She'd been released 2 months early for good behavior and exemplary prison service. Her voice, once sharp with judgment, now carried humility. I know I have no right to ask, but I'm hosting a support group for women whose greed costs them their families. I wondered, would you consider speaking about forgiveness, about rebuilding? I'll think about it, I said, surprising myself. Emma overheard. You should go. Full circle, Mom. 2 weeks later, I stood before 15 women in a community center basement. My mother sat in the back, smaller than I remembered, her designer clothes replaced by simple cotton. She'd aged significantly, but her eyes held something new, genuine remorse. I lost my daughter and granddaughter because I valued wealth over worth. I began. But my daughter taught me that redemption isn't earned. It's chosen. By the person hurt as a gift. And sometimes by the person who caused hurt as a commitment to change. I told our story fully. The medical crisis, the rejection, the investigation, the consequences, but also the aftermath. The foundation, the families, helped the love built from loss. The women listened intently, some crying, all seeing their own failures reflected. My daughter forgave her grandparents not for their sake, but for hers. I concluded. She refused to let their choices define her life. That's the power you're seeking. Not to erase the past, but to write a different future. Afterward, my mother approached hesitantly. "Thank you for coming. I know it cost you." "Emma wants to see you," I said, watching her face crumble with hope. "She's graduating next month. You can come. Dad, too, if he gets a furlough." "Azaria," she started, then stopped, overwhelmed. "Don't thank me. Thank Emma. She's the one choosing Grace." Emma's graduation from Johns Hopkins was a testament to triumph. She'd finished in 3 years, eager to begin medical school. The ceremony fell on a perfect May day, the kind that made everything seem possible. My father had been granted a 24-hour furlough, his first time outside prison walls in 5 years. He looked older, grayer, but somehow younger too. The arrogance had been replaced by something softer. He wept when he saw Emma in her cap and gown. "I don't deserve this," he said. "No," Emma agreed gently, "but Grace isn't about deserving." Marcus and I watched our blended family navigate this careful reunion. Jade, now Emma's devoted sister, protective and watchful. Lauren's children, teenagers, now curious about grandparents they barely remembered. Lauren herself, successful in running a nonprofit supporting prisoners' families, understanding better than most the complexity of reunion. "You did this," Marcus whispered to me as Emma walked across the stage. "You broke the cycle." "She did this," I corrected. "I just refused to let it break her." Emma had been selected as a speaker, her journey from paralysis to pre-med resonating with administrators. She stood at the podium, poised and powerful. 5 years ago, I couldn't walk. My grandparents, who had millions, refused to help with my surgery. That rejection felt like death. But sometimes what feels like an ending is actually a beginning. Their no forced my mother to find her yes. Her courage exposed corruption, helped thousands, and taught me that the worst betrayals can birth the best purposes. She looked directly at my parents. "To my grandparents who are here today, I forgive you. Completely. Your worst choice became my greatest teacher. You taught me what not to value. More importantly, you taught me what to treasure. Family isn't just blood, it's choice. Love isn't just words, it's actions. Wealth isn't just money, it's impact." The crowd was silent, moved by her grace. She continued, "I'm entering medical school to become a pediatric neurosurgeon. Dr. Sarah Chen saved my mobility. I'll pay that forward forever. But more than surgery, I'll practice the medicine of hope, because I know firsthand that healing happens in more than bodies. It happens in families, in communities, in hearts brave enough to break and rebuild better." Standing ovation. My parents sobbed openly. Even my composed mother abandoned dignity for genuine emotion. After the ceremony, we held a reception at the Foundation Center. 300 children had been helped that year alone. Their photos lined the walls, each representing a family who'd found hope through Emma's angels. My father stood before the display, trembling. "All of this from our failure." "Beauty from ashes," I said, Emma's favorite phrase. "I teach men in prison about financial responsibility," he said quietly. "I use our story as a cautionary tale. How greed cost me everything worth having. Some listen, some change. It's small penance for large sins, but it's what I have to offer." "It matters," Emma said, joining us. Every person you reach, every family that stays together because someone learned from your mistakes, it matters. My mother had spent her time counseling women inmates on rebuilding family relationships after incarceration. Between them, they'd impacted hundreds of lives from behind bars. Their crimes had led to their teaching to transformation, redemption's strange mathematics. Brett had been released a year earlier, returning to a family forever changed. He worked construction, now honest labor that paid less but cost nothing in integrity. He and Lauren had divorced, amicably remaining partners in parenting. Both had found new love with people who understood second chances. I think about it sometimes, Brett told me at the reception. If I hadn't taken those bribes, none of this would have happened. I'd still be corrupt. Your parents would still be committing fraud. Emma might be paralyzed. It's like we all had to fall completely to learn how to stand properly. The foundation had grown beyond our dreams. Corporate sponsors, grateful families, and ethical investors had pushed the endowment to $50 million. We'd expanded nationally with chapters in 12 cities. Emma's story had become a movement. Marcus had been elected to the city council, running on a platform of housing reform and transparency. His campaign slogan, integrity over income. He'd won in a landslide, promising to prevent future corruption through systemic change. That evening, as the reception wound down, our extended family gathered in the center's main room. My parents' furlough was ending soon. Prison transport would arrive within hours. But first, Emma had something planned. She'd assembled a video compilation, every child the foundation had helped thanking my parents. Because your granddaughter forgave you, I can walk. Because your story warned others, my family stayed honest. Because you fell, we could rise. 5 minutes of faces, voices, lives touched by the ripples of their choices, both the harm and the healing, the full accounting of actions and consequences. My father couldn't speak afterward. My mother reached for his hand, their first tender gesture I'd seen in decades. They looked broken and rebuilt, emptied and filled, ended and beginning. "We have something for you," my mother said, finally pulling out a worn envelope. "We've been saving our prison wages. It's not much, but we want to donate it to the foundation. $1,100, everything we've earned." Emma accepted it solemnly. "This will help a child walk again, thank you." The transport arrived at sunset. My parents said their goodbyes, my father hugging Emma for the first time since she was small. My mother kissed my cheek, whispering, "Thank you for raising her better than we raised you." As they left, Emma stood tall, no trace of the girl who'd once couldn't walk. "They'll be out in a few years. We should plan for that." "Plan what?" "How to incorporate them into the foundation. Grandpa teaching financial ethics, Grandma counseling families in crisis. Redemption isn't just personal, it's practical. They have skills, hard-earned ones. We should use them." My brilliant, forgiving daughter, already planning resurrection from crucifixion. The next month, Emma began medical school, the youngest in her class but not the least experienced. She'd lived through more than most would in lifetimes. Her classmates called her the miracle walker. She preferred purpose finder. I returned to managing the foundation full-time with Lauren as my co-director. Sisters united in service. Our past divisions healed through shared purpose. Marcus served on the city council while maintaining his tech job building bridges between sectors. 1 year later, a package arrived at the foundation. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Inside a manuscript, From Greed to Grace, A Father's Journey from Millions to Meaning by Richard Hartley. A note was attached. "I've written our story from my perspective. Every ugly truth, every wrong choice, every consequence. If published, all proceeds go to Emma's Angels. Let our shame serve others' salvation. With love and regret, Dad." I read it in one sitting. Brutal honesty filled every page. He'd hidden nothing, excused nothing, minimized nothing. Just truth, consequences, and hard-learned wisdom. It would help others avoid his path. We published it through the foundation. It became a bestseller in the business ethics category. Universities used it in courses. Book clubs discussed it nationwide. My father did interviews from prison, each one emphasizing that wealth without wisdom was poverty, that success without service was failure. Emma called from school excited. Grandpa's book is funding 20 surgeries this month. He's saving kids from prison. Redemption's strange mathematics indeed. My mother was released the following year, having served her full sentence with good behavior. She moved into a small apartment near the foundation, volunteering daily. Her first project, a support program for grandparents estranged from grandchildren due to their own choices. "I'm the cautionary tale and the hope," she explained. "I lost years with Emma because I valued money over her mobility, but she forgave me. That forgiveness is the gift I can offer others, that it's possible, that grace exists, that redemption is real." The program grew quickly, hundreds of broken families seeking restoration. My mother, once so concerned with appearance, now spent her days in honest conversation about failure and forgiveness. She'd found her purpose in her pain. Emma shadowed Dr. Chen during school breaks, preparing for her future specialty. On one visit home, she showed me a letter from a young patient she'd comforted before surgery. "You told me I was brave, but you were braver. You forgave people who hurt you. That's harder than surgery. Thank you for showing me how." "I learned from the best teacher," Emma said, hugging me. "Who?" "You, Mom. You showed me that courage isn't the absence of fear or anger. It's choosing love anyway, choosing to build instead of burn. That's what I want to do with my life, build healing from hurt." As Emma's medical school graduation approached, my father was scheduled for release. 7 years of model behavior teaching and service had earned him supervised freedom. He'd have restrictions monitoring continued service requirements, but he'd be free. "I want to work for the foundation," he wrote. "Not in leadership, I forfeited that right, but in service, teaching financial ethics, warning others, using my shame for their salvation, if you'll have me." The board meeting to discuss it was intense. Some members themselves, victims of housing fraud, struggled with forgiveness. Others saw the powerful testimony possible. Emma attended speaking last. "My grandfather's crimes led to my surgery crisis. His rejection nearly cost me mobility. But his redemption can save others from similar pain. We're not Emma's angels because angels are perfect. We're angels because we lift others from where they've fallen, even when they cause their own fall. Especially then." The vote was unanimous. Conditional employment, supervised service, gradual trust, redemption with verification. My father was released on a Tuesday, thinner, grayer, humbled beyond recognition. His first stop, Emma's apartment near the medical school. His first words, "Thank you for becoming who you are despite who I was." His first action, reporting to the foundation to begin his service. Teaching Wealth versus Worth, a Convict's Guide to Ethical Success. The waiting list filled immediately. Emma graduated medical school with highest honors. Her residency matched Johns Hopkins Pediatric Neurosurgery, working directly with Dr. Chen. Full circle from patient to healer. My parents attended sitting together, but apart from us initially. By the end, Emma had drawn them into our circle. The family photo showed an unusual group: former inmates, their victims, the children who'd survived their choices, the partners who'd entered afterward. Broken people choosing wholeness. "You know what I love about our family," Emma said at dinner afterward. "We're all redemption stories, every single one. We've all fallen and risen, all betrayed and forgiven, all broken and rebuilt. That's real wealth." My father raised his water glass, 7 years sober from the intoxication of greed. To Emma, who taught an old man that the only fortune worth having is forgiveness, and that grace is the only currency that matters. We toasted. Former enemies, now family. Former failures, now servants. Former pain, now purpose. The Foundation's 10th anniversary gala drew thousands. We'd helped 50,000 children nationwide, expanded internationally, created systemic change in housing law inspection processes, financial ethics training. What started as one Mother's desperation had become a movement. Emma gave the keynote, now Dr. Thompson having completed residency in record time. She stood before the crowd, tall and strong, no trace of the girl who'd once faced paralysis. 10 years ago, my spine broke. My grandparents had millions but wouldn't help. That betrayal broke my mother's heart. But from those breaks came breakthrough. Every child helped, every family reunited, every second chance given. It all flows from failure, transformed by forgiveness. She introduced the next speaker, my grandfather Richard Hartley, former millionaire, former inmate, current servant, forever family. My father took the stage, his journey visible in every line of his face. He spoke about greed's cost, redemption's price, grace's value. The audience, many as former victims, listened with the attention of those who understand that anyone can fall, anyone can rise. I spent 7 years in prison paying for my crimes, he concluded. I'll spend the rest of my life grateful for my granddaughter's forgiveness. She gave me what I denied her, help when I didn't deserve it. That's the Foundation's true mission, not just medical assistance, but mercy, not just financial aid, but forgiveness, not just healing bodies, but rebuilding families. The evening raised $12 million, but more importantly, it raised hope. Families estranged by greed found paths to reconciliation. Former inmates found purpose in service. Children found healing and generosity born from pain. Later, as our family cleaned up together, Emma and Jade stacking chairs, Marcus and my father collecting donations, my mother and Lauren organizing paperwork, I watched them work. My parents, once too proud for honest labor, now found joy in simple service. My daughters, biological and chosen, united in purpose. My husband, steadfast through every storm. Mom, Emma called. Stop watching and help, we've got lives to save tomorrow. I joined them laughing. She was right. Tomorrow would bring new crises, new children needing help, new families facing medical bankruptcy, but it would also bring new donors, new volunteers, new chances for redemption. My parents had taught me about consequences through their negative example, but Emma had taught me about grace through her positive choice. Between consequence and grace, we'd built something beautiful, something lasting, something that transformed curse into blessing, betrayal, into bounty rejection, into redemption. The night grew late, but we worked on together. Former fractures now fused stronger than before. A family not despite our failures, but because of what we'd built from them. Proof that the worst breaks can lead to the best breakthroughs. And that sometimes the greatest wealth is discovering you already had everything that mattered. You just had to lose everything that didn't to see it clearly. Redemption's strange mathematics: subtract greed, add grace, multiply mercy, and divide the dividends among all who need them. That was our formula. That was our fortune. That was our family. Forever and always built on the foundation of forgiveness, held together by the angels of mercy, reaching always toward heaven while lifting others from hell. Beauty from ashes, grace from greed, angels from accidents. Emma's angels where broken wings learn to soar. 10 years had passed since the day Emma first walked again. Now at 29, she stood in surgical scrubs preparing for her most challenging case yet, separating conjoined twins whose spines were fused. The lead surgeon, Dr. Sarah Chen, her mentor, and the woman who'd saved her own mobility. Ready, Dr. Thompson. Dr. Chen asked, the torch of leadership clearly passing. Ready to give them what you gave me, a chance at separate full lives. I watched from the observation deck with Marcus, our fingers intertwined. Below, our daughter moved with the same grace she'd shown on soccer fields, now channeled into precision that would save lives. Remember when we thought we'd lost everything? Marcus whispered. We'd lost nothing. We just hadn't found it yet. The surgery would take 16 hours. As Emma began, I left for the Foundation's board meeting. We were considering our biggest expansion yet, a $100 million initiative to provide free pediatric surgery centers in underserved communities. the Donor A consortium of wealthy individuals who'd read my father's book and realized their wealth meant nothing without worth. Lauren ran the presentation with corporate efficiency, softened by personal experience. Each center will serve 5,000 children annually. We're not just healing bodies, we're rebuilding communities one child at a time. The vote was unanimous. Emma's Angels would soon have wings in 20 cities. My phone buzzed. A text from Jade, now a pediatric nurse working alongside Emma. Surgery going perfectly. Emma's hands are magic. Must run in the family. Our blended family had produced 2 healers, both choosing service over salary. After the meeting, I drove to the community center where my parents ran their weekly Wealth and Worth seminar. The parking lot was full. Former executives, disgraced politicians, and privileged youth sent by courts all learning that integrity mattered more than income. My father, now 71, commanded the room with hard-earned wisdom. I had $5 million and couldn't spare $30,000 for my granddaughter's surgery. Today I have nothing but Social Security, yet I'm wealthier than ever. Why? Because I learned that fortune isn't what you keep, but what you give. My mother circulated, connecting personally with each attendee. Her designer days were long gone, replaced by simple clothes and genuine smiles. She caught my eye and waved, mouthing, "Thank you." After class, we had our weekly lunch, a tradition started upon my father's release that had evolved into cherished routine. Emma's performing her first solo spine separation today, I told them. My father's eyes filled. From patient to surgeon, our failure became her fuel. Your redemption became her inspiration, I corrected. She saw you transform disgrace into service. That matters too. My mother reached across the table. We've been thinking. We want to establish a scholarship, the Richard and Margaret Hartley Second Chances Fund, for children of incarcerated parents pursuing medical careers, funded by Dad's book royalties. All of them. Every penny. We lived for money once. Now we want money to live for others. That afternoon, I visited the original Emma's Angels house, the first residential facility for families staying long-term during children's medical treatment. 32 families currently called it home, finding community in crisis. Maria Gonzalez, one of my father's former tenants, managed the facility. Her baby, who'd suffered from the mold exposure, was now a healthy teenager, volunteering as a big sister to younger patients. 15 years ago, I cursed your family name, Maria said as we toured the renovated building. Now I bless it daily. Funny how God works. Funny how forgiveness works, I replied. That evening, our extended family gathered for monthly dinner. What had started as awkward obligation had become anticipated celebration. Brett arrived with his new wife and stepchildren Lauren, with her partner David, and their adopted daughter. My parents humbled but whole. Marcus's extended family who'd embraced us all. Jade's boyfriend, a fellow nurse who understood our unique dynamics. Any word on the surgery? Brett asked. Jade checked her phone. Hour 14, both twins stable. Emma's doing the final separation now. We held our breath collectively. These children's lives hung in the balance, held by hands that had once been unable to hold a pencil. The poetry of redemption never ceased to amaze. She's got this, my mother said firmly. She's got her mother's courage and her grandfather's precision. Redeemed precision, but precision nonetheless. Strange how traits could transform. My father's exacting nature, once used to exploit loopholes, now helped Emma save lives through surgical accuracy. My mother's social skills, once wielded for status, now comforted families in crisis. Lauren's business acumen, once serving greed, now grew charitable impact. Brett's attention to detail, once corrupted by bribes, now ensured construction safety as a reformed inspector. Even our failures had been redeemed into purpose. Marcus's phone rang. His face lit up as he listened, then announced, "Surgery successful. Both twins separated stable, expected to make full recoveries. Emma did it." The cheer that went up could probably be heard blocks away. My father wept openly, my mother holding him, as they processed another miracle born from their mistakes. $32,000. Emma said later that night, exhausted but exhilarated as she joined us for dessert. That's what started everything. The money Grandma and Grandpa wouldn't lend. Today's surgery cost $800,000, fully funded by the foundation. Those twins will walk because strangers cared more than family once did. She looked at my parents. But family learned. Family changed. Family chose redemption. That matters more than the original betrayal. My father stood raising his glass of sparkling cider. To consequences that became catalysts, to failures that became foundations, to the granddaughter who taught us that wealth has nothing to do with worth. To the grandparents who proved people can change, Emma countered, raising her own glass. We toasted the circle complete. Former enemies now advocates. Former betrayers now benefactors. Former broken now builders. The next morning brought news that would reshape our future again. The Nobel Committee had long listed Emma's Angels for the Peace Prize, recognizing our work in transforming family betrayal into systematic change. Whether we won mattered less than the platform it provided to share our message globally. A Nobel nomination. My mother gasped when I told her. From our shame. From our salvation, I corrected. The shame was the seed. Everything else was what we chose to grow from it. Emma performed rounds that morning with unusual joy. Each patient represented possibility. One boy paralyzed in an accident heard her story and found hope. An infant with spinal bifida would receive surgery funded by a donor who'd heard my father speak about choosing people over profit. Dr. Thompson, a young resident asked why pediatric neurosurgery you could make millions in private practice. Emma smiled. I've seen what millions can do when hoarded. I've also seen what happens when talent serves others. I choose the latter. Besides, I am in private practice. My patients just don't get the bills. That philosophy had attracted the best medical talent to our centers. Doctors tired of fighting insurance companies found joy in simply healing. Nurses burned out by bureaucracy rediscovered their calling. Emma's Angels had become a movement of medical professionals choosing purpose over profit. The Foundation's 10th anniversary documentary premiered that week. From betrayal to blessing, the Emma Thompson story. Hollywood had wanted to dramatize it, add fictional conflict. We'd insisted on truth. The real story needed no embellishment. Watching it with the full family was surreal. Seeing our pain transformed into purpose on screen, hearing testimonies from thousands helped, watching my parents' journey from villains to volunteers, witnessing Emma's evolution from victim to victor. That's us, Jade whispered at one point. We really lived that. We really survived that, Marcus corrected, and built this from the rubble. The film ended with Emma performing surgery voiceover of her college graduation speech. My grandparents' rejection became my greatest gift. It taught me that family isn't blood but choice, that wealth isn't money but impact, that breaking can lead to breakthrough if you choose building over bitterness. My parents sat quietly afterward. Finally, my father spoke. I spent so many years building financial wealth while bankrupting my soul. Now I'm financially bankrupt but spiritually wealthy. I wouldn't trade back for anything. The only thing I regret, my mother added, is the time lost. The years Emma grew without us. The pain we caused while learning what mattered. Emma moved to sit between them. But you learned. You changed. You're here now. That's what counts. Besides, if you'd been perfect grandparents from the start, none of this would exist. 50,000 children have been helped because you said no to one. Maybe that was the plan all along. God's economy is strange, my father mused. He took our greed and multiplied it into grace for multitudes. The documentary's release brought a flood of new support. Donations, volunteers, families seeking help, and surprisingly wealthy individuals seeking redemption for their own greed. We created a program pairing them with my parents, who understood the journey from valuing assets to valuing assistance. One billionaire, after spending a day with my father, pledged his entire fortune to charity. You showed me my children's eyes matter more than my portfolio's size. Thank you for the wake-up call. Lauren had pioneered corporate partnerships, convincing companies that funding children's health care was the ultimate investment. ROI isn't return on investment, she'd tell boards. It's redemption of integrity. Saving a child saves a family, saves a community, saves a generation. Her presentations mixing business acumen with personal testimony had raised hundreds of millions. The sister, once corrupted by easy money, now convinced others to give theirs away. Brett's story resonated with different audiences. Former inmates heard hope in his journey from federal prison to respected safety inspector. Young professionals tempted by corruption saw the cost in his children's tears. His seminars on integrity and infrastructure had reformed building inspection nationwide. I took bribes that could have killed children, he'd begin each talk. Now I ensure no child lives in danger for someone's profit. Every safe home is penance for my past. The ripples kept expanding. Medical schools created ethics courses based on our story. Business programs taught my father's book as a cautionary tale. Social workers used our family's redemption as a template for reconciliation. Emma published her first research paper, Psychosocial Factors in Pediatric Spine Recovery, the role of family reconciliation in healing outcomes. Her data showed something remarkable. Children whose families reconciled during treatment had 30% better outcomes than those remaining estranged. Forgiveness is medicine, she explained to colleagues. Bitterness is poison. We can fix the spine, but if the spirit stays broken, true healing remains incomplete. This led to the Foundation's next Evolution Family Reconciliation Services. Licensed therapists, many with their own redemption stories, helped families bridge chasms created by betrayal. My mother led the program with wisdom earned through pain. I lost years with my granddaughter because I valued money over relationship. She'd tell struggling families, "Don't make my mistake. Whatever the hurt, it's not worth missing their milestones. Pride is a luxury you can't afford when love is the price." 60% of families in the program achieved some level of reconciliation. Not all forgave completely, but most found ways to move forward. Children needed extended family, even imperfect ones willing to change. As Emma approached 30, she faced a decision. Johns Hopkins offered her the chief of pediatric neurosurgery position. Prestigious, lucrative, the pinnacle of medical success. She turned it down. "I want to build something new," she explained over family dinner. "A teaching hospital specifically for children whose families betrayed or abandoned them, where medical excellence meets emotional healing, where no child faces surgery alone because family failed them." My parents exchanged glances. "We've been discussing our estate," my father said. "It's not much, the proceeds from continued book sales and speaking fees, but we want to seed this hospital, the Hartley Center for Healing. Let our name, once synonymous with greed, become known for grace." "How much?" Emma asked. $2 million, everything we've earned since release." The table went silent. My parents, who'd once hoarded millions while their granddaughter faced paralysis, were giving everything to ensure no child faced that abandonment again. "That's perfect," Emma whispered. "Absolutely perfect." Marcus had been quietly working his own redemption project. Using his tech skills, he'd created an app connecting families in medical crisis with resources, volunteers, and funding. Emma's Angels Digital had helped coordinate care for thousands unable to reach physical centers. "Technology serving humanity," he explained to investors. "Not for profit, but for purpose. Every connection made might save a life." The app had been downloaded 5 million times. Families found help, donors found recipients, volunteers found purpose, all because Marcus believed technology should heal, not divide. Jade announced her own news that evening. "I've been accepted to the nurse practitioner program, pediatric specialty. I want to be more help to kids like Emma was." Our daughters, biological and chosen, both dedicating their lives to healing. The next generation carrying forward what pain had taught us. "You know what strikes me?" Lauren said as dinner wound down. We're all in service now, every single one of us, from the greediest family in the state to this. How does that happen? One choice at a time, Emma answered. Grandma and Grandpa chose wrong initially. Mom chose to fight. We all chose to forgive. Then we chose to serve. Each choice built on the last until here we are. The compound interest of kindness, my father added, unable to resist a financial metaphor. Goodness invested grows exponentially. We're living proof. As the evening ended and family dispersed to their various homes and purposes, Emma lingered. We sat on the porch watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Mom, do you ever think about what would have happened if they'd just said yes? If they'd co-signed that loan? Sometimes. You'd have had surgery. We'd have moved on. But thousands of children would still be suffering. Families would remain broken. The foundation wouldn't exist. Our family would still be fractured by greed instead of fused by grace. So their no was actually the greatest gift. Their no was the catalyst. Our choices afterward were the gift, to each other, to ourselves, to the world. Emma leaned against me, my tall, strong daughter who'd rebuilt herself and then helped rebuild so many others. I love our family, she said simply. All of it. Even the broken parts, especially the broken parts, because that's where the light gets in. Leonard Cohen. I recognized the reference. Via you, Mom. You taught me that. That cracks aren't failures but opportunities. That's why I want to build this hospital, for all the cracked families who need light. We sat in comfortable silence, mother and daughter survivors, and thrivers, teachers, and students in the University of Unintended Consequences. Somewhere my parents were preparing tomorrow's lessons for former millionaires learning meaning. Lauren was reviewing grant proposals for families destroyed by white-collar crime. Brett was ensuring buildings were safe for children, like those his corruption once endangered. Marcus was coding kindness into algorithms. Jade was studying to heal deeper. All of us broken and rebuilt, scattered but connected, proving daily that the worst betrayals could birth the best purposes if you chose redemption over revenge, forgiveness over fury, building over bitterness. The stars seemed especially bright that night, billions of lights piercing darkness, like the thousands of children helped, like the families reconciled, like the futures salvaged from failures. Love you more than all the stars, Mom, Emma said, invoking our old ritual. That's a lot of love, baby. Not nearly enough for what we've built from what we lost. She was right. We'd lost money and gained meaning, lost family and gained multitudes, lost health and gained wholeness, lost everything that didn't matter and found everything that did. The new beginning wasn't just Emma walking again. It was all of us learning to run toward purpose instead of away from pain. Learning that wealth wasn't what you accumulated, but what you distributed. Learning that family wasn't just who you were born to, but who you chose to become. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Children needing surgery, families needing reconciliation, hearts needing healing. But tonight, under stars that witnessed our journey from betrayal to blessing, we rested in the beautiful truth Emma had spoken. We were broken in all the right places to let the light in. And that light had illuminated not just our path, but thousands of others finding their way from darkness to dawn, from greed to grace, from endings to beginnings that never really ended, because love, like light, travels infinitely outward, healing everything it touches. The angels had learned to fly by falling first. Now they soared on wings made strong by storms, survived. The Hartley Center for Healing broke ground on a crisp September morning exactly 15 years after Emma's first surgery. She stood at the podium no longer the frightened child who couldn't walk, but a renowned surgeon about to revolutionize pediatric care. This hospital represents every choice made after my grandparents' rejection. She began addressing the crowd of donors, families, and media. Every dollar donated by strangers when family wouldn't help. Every life saved because someone chose compassion over indifference. Today, we ensure no child faces medical crisis alone. My parents, now in their late 70s, sat in the front row. Their journey from federal prison to philanthropy had become legendary in redemption circles. They held hands, tears flowing as Emma continued. To my grandparents, Richard and Margaret Hartley, whose transformed hearts made this possible, your greatest investment wasn't the millions you once hoarded, but the love you learned to give. This center bears your name, not despite your past, but because of what you chose to become. The crowd erupted in applause. My father stood shakily, overwhelmed. The man who'd once refused $32,000 for Emma's surgery had given everything to ensure others received care. The mathematics of redemption had balanced his books. Marcus squeezed my hand as we watched our daughter command the stage. 30 years together, had weathered every storm. He'd been my anchor when family failed my partner in building new foundations, my proof that love could be chosen daily and grow stronger for the choosing. After the ceremony, our extended family toured the construction site. The hospital would feature surgical suites, recovery rooms, family apartments, and reconciliation centers, every detail designed for holistic healing, body, family, and spirit together. "Look at this," Jade said, pointing to architectural plans. "The meditation garden connects the surgical wing to the family counseling center. Symbolic, isn't it? Healing happens in between spaces." She'd become head of pediatric nursing at Johns Hopkins, following Emma's path with her own light. Our daughters had fulfilled the promise of their shared childhood professional partners in healing. Lauren studied the business plan she'd helped develop. Fully funded for 20 years through the endowment. After that, sustainable through our program of grateful families paying forward. No child rejected for inability to pay. Ever. Her transformation from entitled sister to foundation CEO still amazed me. She'd rebuilt her life on service teaching her children that privilege meant responsibility to lift others. Brett's children had thrived despite his incarceration, learning resilience from their mother's redemption. Brett himself arrived late, coming from a speaking engagement. Now a national advocate for building safety reform, he'd turned his corruption into a crusade for integrity. Every safe home was penance, every prevented tragedy a step toward redemption. "Emma, I have something for you," he said, producing a worn envelope. "Every speaking fee I've earned talking about my crimes, $300,000. For the children's wing. Let my mistakes fund their miracles." The gifts kept coming. Former tenants of my father's slums, many now successful, pledged support. Families helped by the foundation contributed what they could. The prosecutor who'd sent my parents to prison donated, moved by their transformation. Even the judge wrote a check noting that justice and mercy had found balance in our story. Dr. Sarah Chen, now nearing retirement, would serve as the center's advisory chair. "I saved one girl who saved thousands," she said simply. "Best surgery I ever performed." That evening, we held a private family dinner at the original Emma's Angels house. 3 generations gathered around the table, biological and chosen family merged into something stronger than either alone. "I need to share something," Emma announced, glowing with joy beyond the day's achievements. "James and I are expecting. Twins, actually, due in spring." The celebration was instant and overwhelming. Emma pregnant with twins, the same configuration she'd successfully separated. Life's poetry writing itself in parallel lines. My mother reached across the table to grasp Emma's hands. "I promise to be the grandmother these babies deserve, present loving, prioritizing their needs above all else." "We both promise," my father added. "We've learned what matters. Took us too long, cost too much, but we've learned." "I know," Emma said softly. "That's why I want you both in their lives. Children need grandparents who've learned that love matters more than money. You're uniquely qualified to teach that now." The reconciliation was complete. Not just forgiveness, but full restoration. The family shattered by greed had been rebuilt by grace, stronger for having been broken and choosing repair. To think, Marcus mused, it all started with $32,000, the price of a car, the cost that changed everything. The cost that revealed everything I corrected. The money was just the catalyst. The choices afterward were what mattered. Lauren raised her glass. To choices, to consequences, to redemption earned one day at a time. To Emma, Brett added, who showed us grace when we deserved judgment. To Mom, Emma countered, looking at me, who stood up when standing seemed impossible, who fought when fighting seemed futile, who built beauty from betrayal. To all of us, my mother concluded, broken and rebuilt, failed and forgiven, proof that the worst moments can become the best motivations if we choose transformation over stagnation. We toasted the sound of glasses meeting like bells announcing not an ending, but a continuation. The story that began with rejection had evolved into redemption, but it wasn't over. It would continue through the twins. Emma carried the children the hospital would heal. The family's reconciliation would restore. After dinner, I found myself alone with Emma in the garden where she'd relearned to walk. The same space that had witnessed her first post-surgery steps now held a woman who'd traveled miles beyond what seemed possible. Any regrets? She asked the question, startling in its directness. About what? The path we took, the price paid, the years of anger before forgiveness. Any of it. I considered carefully. I regret the pain you suffered, the fear you faced, the family that failed you initially, but regret the journey no, because look what grew from that barren ground. I've been thinking about the twins, she said, hand resting on her still flat stomach. What legacy we're leaving them, what story they'll inherit. They'll inherit truth, I said, the truth that families can fail and rebuild. That money means nothing without love. That redemption is possible for anyone willing to work for it. That's a powerful legacy. They'll have grandparents who learned those lessons the hard way. The best teachers often do. We stood quietly remembering the girl who couldn't stand and seeing the woman who stood for so much. The foundation had helped over 100,000 children. The reconciliation program had restored 5,000 families. The redemption ripples had spread beyond counting. Mom, I want to tell you something, Emma said. Something I've never said directly. I waited. Thank you for not accepting their no. Thank you for fighting when it would have been easier to despair. Thank you for showing me that love looks like action, not just words. Everything good in my life flows from your refusal to accept their rejection. Everything good in your life flows from your courage to forgive, I replied. I could have fought forever and built nothing but bitterness. You chose grace. That changed everything. We chose it together, and look what we built. The Foundation's campus sprawled before us. Buildings named for donors' gardens for grateful families, paths connecting services that addressed every aspect of healing. What had started as one desperate mother's fight for her daughter had become a movement of millions choosing compassion. I have something for you, Emma said, producing a wrapped package. Inside was a photo album carefully curated. The first image Emma in the hospital, unable to walk, face etched with pain, but eyes full of determination. The last Emma in surgical scrubs, standing tall, surrounded by children she'd helped walk again. Between those bookends, the entire journey, the investigation, the trial, the surgery, the recovery, the reconciliation, the redemption. Every broken piece that had been reassembled into something beautiful. For the twins, she explained, so they know their story, all of it. The failures and the forgiveness, the breaking and the building, the full truth of how love can transform anything. Even grandparents who chose wrong, especially grandparents who chose wrong and then chose to make it right. That's the most powerful story. Not perfection, but redemption. Not avoiding mistakes, but learning from them. My phone buzzed with a message from the foundation. The Nobel Committee had announced their decision. Emma's Angels hadn't won the Peace Prize, but we'd received something better. A special commendation for transforming family betrayal into systematic change that has healed bodies and relationships globally. "We changed the world," Emma said softly. "From one family's failure, we changed the world." "You changed the world. I just refused to accept no for an answer." And taught me to do the same. To refuse to accept that broken meant permanently damaged. That betrayed meant bitter. That fallen meant finished. The stars were appearing, our old friends witnessing another milestone. Somewhere my parents were preparing tomorrow's lessons on choosing people over profit. Lauren was reviewing applications for the next round of medical grants. Brett was ensuring another building was safe for families. Marcus was coding compassion into technology. Jade was healing with hands trained by experience. All of us scattered but connected, broken but rebuilt, proof that the worst circumstances could yield the best outcomes if met with courage, grace, and determination to build rather than blame. "Love you more than all the stars," Mom Emma said, invoking our ritual one more time. "That's infinite love, baby. Still not enough for what you gave me, what you taught me, what you showed me about standing up even when your legs don't work." We headed inside where family waited. The house hummed with conversation, laughter, and the sound of children playing. Lauren's adopted daughter practiced soccer moves while Jade's boyfriend played guitar. My parents sat close together, their love rebuilt on honesty rather than wealth. Marcus orchestrated dinner cleanup with military precision, softened by constant smiles. This was wealth. This was success. This was the fortune that couldn't be frozen by federal agents or stolen by greed. It was the investment that paid dividends in healed hearts and restored hope. "One question," I asked Emma as we joined the others. "What do we tell the twins when they're old enough to understand about how our family began?" She smiled, wisdom beyond her years shining through. "We tell them the truth. That great-grandma and great-grandpa once loved money more than people, that grandma loved me more than comfort, that I learned to love them more than anger. And that love, active choosing, forgiving love, can transform any tragedy into triumph. The full truth, every broken, beautiful bit of it, because that's what makes us who we are. Not the perfect family, but the perfected one. Not without scars, but stronger for them. Not pretending the past didn't happen, but proving it doesn't have to define the future." My father overheard and approached humility etched in every line of his face. Tell them their great-grandfather was a fool who nearly lost everything that mattered for everything that didn't. But also, tell them he learned that redemption is real, that grace can grow in the unlikeliest ground. Tell them, my mother added, joining us, that love is the only inheritance worth leaving. We learned that too late for Emma, but just in time for them. The evening continued with the chaos of a large, loving family. Stories were shared, plans were made, children were hugged. The twins would be born into this, a family forged in failure but refined by redemption, proof that blood alone doesn't make family, but choice does. As the night wound down and goodbyes were exchanged, each person carrying their piece of our shared story back into the world, I reflected on the journey. 15 years from rejection to redemption, from a mother's desperate plea to a movement changing millions of lives, from family fractured by greed to one fused by grace. The Apostle Paul wrote that God works all things together for good. Looking at my family, the foundation the lives touched and transformed, I finally understood. Not that God caused the pain, but that He could use it. Not that suffering was good, but that good could grow from it. Not that betrayal was blessed, but that blessing could bloom from the ashes. Emma stood at the door saying goodbye to grandparents who'd learned to prioritize presence over presence. They held her carefully, like the gift she'd always been, but they'd been too blind to see. The reconciliation was complete, the redemption real, the restoration remarkable. "Thank you," my father whispered to me as he left, "for not giving up on us even when we gave up on you." "Thank you," I replied, "for proving people can change. Only because you showed us the way, you and Emma, our teachers in the classroom of consequences." After everyone left, Marcus and I cleaned up together the comfortable rhythm of long partnership. Emma had returned to her apartment, the twins and her husband needing rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: construction decisions, medical consultations, foundation meetings. But tonight was for gratitude. "You know what amazes me most?" Marcus asked as we finished. "That it all turned out exactly as it should. Every rejection, every betrayal, every hard choice led here. To this family, this purpose, this life." Redemption's strange mathematics, I agreed. Subtract greed, add grace, multiply mercy, and somehow the equation balances. We stood on the porch looking at the stars that had witnessed our entire journey. From that desperate morning when my parents refused to help through investigations and imprisonment surgery and recovery rebuilding and reconciliation to this moment of complete restoration. The stars seemed to pulse with promise. For the twins who would inherit both story and mission. For the children who would be healed in the hospital Emma was building. For the families who would find reconciliation in our programs. For the ongoing ripples of redemption spreading outward like light from distant suns. "Love you more than all the stars," Marcus whispered, borrowing Emma's phrase. "That's a lot of love. Not nearly enough for the life we've built from the ruins." He was right. We'd built something beautiful from betrayal, something lasting from loss, something meaningful from mistakes. The family that had failed had become one that lifted others from their own failures. The wealth hoarded had been transformed into worth shared. The rejection that nearly broke us had become the foundation for rebuilding thousands of other broken families. As we went inside, turning off lights and securing doors, I thought about tomorrow. The construction continuing, the children needing help, the families seeking reconciliation, the grandparents teaching hard-learned lessons, the daughters carrying forward the mission, the twins preparing to enter a world made better by transformed pain. But mostly I thought about Emma, the girl who couldn't walk teaching the world to run toward redemption, the child betrayed by blood teaching the universe about chosen family, the patient who became the healer, the victim who became the victor, the rejected who became the beacon of acceptance. She'd asked if I had regrets. Only one, that it took pain to teach us what love looked like in action. But perhaps that was the only way we could have learned it deeply enough to teach others. Perhaps the breaking was necessary for the breakthrough. The house settled into quiet, full of memories and promise. In the morning, work would continue. Lives would be touched. Hope would be distributed. Love would be multiplied. But tonight, in the silence that held years of noise transformed into symphony, I simply whispered thanks. For the no that became yes. For the closed door that opened windows. For the family that failed and therefore learned to succeed at what actually mattered. The resolution wasn't an ending, but an eternal beginning. Every healed child extending the story, every reconciled family adding chapters, every transformed heart proving that redemption was real. Grace was powerful, and love, properly understood and actively chosen, could indeed transform any tragedy into triumph. The stars watched witness to it all. And somewhere, a 14-year-old girl who couldn't walk was teaching the universe to dance. The story that began with betrayal would continue with blessing, forever and always. Because grace, like starlight, travels infinitely outward, illuminating everything it touches, transforming darkness into dawn, one choice at a time. If Emma's story touched your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced family betrayal that led to unexpected blessings? Have you witnessed redemption in your own life? Please share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please consider commenting with your own experiences of forgiveness and redemption, liking this video to help others discover Emma's journey, subscribing to hear more stories of hope, triumphing over hardship, sharing with someone who needs to know that broken doesn't mean worthless. Thank you for joining our family's journey from betrayal to blessing. Remember, you're never too broken to be rebuilt, never too failed to find redemption, never too alone when strangers can become family. May you find your own angels in unexpected places, and may you become an angel for someone else in their darkest hour. With love and hope for your journey, Azaria and Emma Thompson. Love you more than all the stars.